Welcome, Putete and Reverend Zosanga. We will be waiting for participants to join, and I think we still have time left as well, 5 minutes. So maybe you can take time to relax and we get used to the screen while we're waiting.
I'm just checking my microphone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
All right, all right. So I'll be back in 5 minutes, okay?
Okay. To the participants who have joined, I am going to paste our YouTube link on the chat box. If you would like to share to your friends or your families, you can do so. It would be highly appreciated. I will also make this brief announcement that feedback form will be available at the end of our session today. And for those who would like to receive e-certificate, it's mandatory that you fill up this feedback form, but we will post it only at the end of the discussion in today's session. We will wait for our speakers for today to join again. More participants are pouring in, and I think we will be able to start our session maybe in the next 2 to 3 minutes. If our speakers can hear me, I think we can start our session now, considering that it's 2 o'clock, or I don't know whether my clock is early. Okay, so we have Putetea and waiting for Reverend Zosan Liana to join. Okay. Sir, can you please unmute your video?
Hello.
Yes, we have you now.
Okay.
Okay, I think we should start our session. Today is the third day of our webinar series on Mizo youth career and the English language. A very good afternoon once again to our esteemed resource person today and others who will be joining us hopefully in the discussion session. I know that they are all very busy, but they are hoping to join us in the discussion at the end. And I welcome all the participants once again who are joining us through Zoom and YouTube Live. Today, on behalf of our respected principal, Puarla Rintuanga, and the Department of English, Government Khazol College, once again, I extend a warm welcome to all on the third day of our webinar series on Mizo society and the English language. To all the participants, we deeply value your presence, we value your feedback, and for committing to this event to make it a success. And so far, your interrogations have made our discussion sessions dynamic. It has made our discussion sessions productive. And so today we will be expecting the same from you. We started our first day on the 23rd with the topic Mizo ethnocentrism and the English language. And yesterday we discussed on the topic Mizo English as a second language in contemporary Mizo society. So both sessions are available on YouTube, and I take this opportunity to also thank MS Academy, Khatla, for broadcasting our program live and helping us reach a larger audience. From the feedback that we have received so far from many corners, I should say to our resource persons that both sessions have been highly appreciated. And so on behalf of all, I would humbly request them to accept our endless gratitude for sharing their perspective on a much needed topic. It is with great fervor that today we present once again two astonishing speakers, Putete Ahmar, who will be speaking in the first session, and Reverend Zosang Lianakolni, who will take up the second session. I am sure our talk today will be as profitable and as fruitful as the previous two sessions, especially for Mizo youth. So please stay with us till the end of the program. We shall now start our first session for today, which is on Mizo youth career and the English language. Let me introduce our speaker for the first session, Lal Nghing Lawakmar. His numerous achievements and contributions for Mizo society helped make him a household name in Mizoram. The name Lal Nghing Lawakmar, or more fondly, called as Tete Ahmar, is no stranger in the field of journalism and sports. He is currently the joint editor of Phanglaini, which is the largest circulated newspaper in Mizoram, and he has participated in a number of national and international seminars, conferences, and many times invited as a resource person in these events. And his contribution in the field of sports is highly commendable. And I would like to mention that he is currently honorary secretary of Mizoram Football Association, executive committee member, and deputy chairman, League Committee of All India Football Federation. Apart from that, he is still the joint secretary of Mizoram Olympic Association, member of Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, National Committee on Sports. While he was already famous among the youth, we know that he gained broader public recognition when he contested as an independent candidate in the last Lok Sabha election that was held in 2019, and he lost by a small margin. However, I should say that many are relieved by this, I included, because had he been an MP, I don't think that we would have the chance or the opportunity to interact with him like we do today. So he is truly unmatched when it comes to juggling his professional life and dedicating his time to deliver lots of unpaid motivational speeches, I should say. His poise, his charisma, and his dedication to the future of Mizo youth is what makes him a sort of celebrity, or what makes him, celebrated among Mizo youth in Mizoram. I now welcome him to begin his talk on Mizo youth career and English language with respect to his experiences in the field of sports, as well as his understanding or his perspective on language and the Mizo society in general. Welcome, Putetea.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. I think this afternoon you are listening to a wrong person because the subject here is related to an English language. A person who struggled to write a meaningful article, not to mention a book in English. And also, a person who always struggled to express himself in English is asked to be a speaker in a subject which is related to an English language. I have to confess that when I received a call from Rinchani for this webinar, I did not know that this is to be conducted in English. And I knew that this webinar is going to be conducted in English, I should not have accepted it, because this is where I'm not good at. And apart from that, when I see the list of speakers, I was very much belittled, because we have Professor Maggie, Professor Joy Patsua, Reverend Zosang Lianakolni Adam, and of course the one and only Mr. Khera Changte, who happens to be my senior in the college, and also in my hostel. But the only confidence which I have in this session is that we are going to speak something about sports, and particularly football, and also the life of the footballer. Having said that, I'm given a topic which I'm familiar with to some extent, but when it comes to a language, and especially English, it is always difficult for me. That's why I have written down whatever I have to say. So this afternoon, you're going to witness a reader, not quote unquote a speaker. I've listened to the discussion with Professor Maggie and Professor Joy, which I was like, wow, this is something which I've never heard of, because this discussion is second to none when it comes to the Indian, scenario. The type of question which were asked and the kind of answer which are coming out from the esteemed resource person, it was very much, I will say that, world class. So this afternoon, you're going to witness someone who is a local made, who is made in Mizoram, and who is going to speak something about the topic which is nowhere to be seen in any book, which you cannot read in the Oxford Dictionary, or which you do not have any kind of researches. So I was given, when I was given the concept note about the topic which I'm going to speak at, there are questions asked. So I am preparing to answer those questions. Based on that, I'll be reading out whatever I have prepared for this afternoon. Unlike the other speakers, I will say that I will be more than happy if I do not get any questions, because I will say again, I'll repeat that this is what I'm not good at. Anyway, I'll try to read it out whatever I have uh, prepared for to the best of my ability and knowledge. The moderator gave me a very, I will say that, informative concept note, because without that, this is a very vast topic, and I could go on forever without, hitting the point. So I better read it out. If you were all ready, you are going to witness a reader, not a speaker this afternoon. So the first question which the moderator asks is English language necessary for the advancement of career in sports in India? My answer is, it goes like this. There are two most commonly spoken languages in India, Hindi and English. If we can master either one to a certain extent, it will substantially enhance our confidence in whatever field we decide to move forward. In the particular area of sport, communication is as integral as it has ever been in its constant evolution. The importance of communication between a coach and an athlete, between athletes themselves, have been stated as key in sports. But the constant evolution of human existence has led to another key aspect of communication in sport between the athlete and the media. This is going to be my main topic, between the athlete and the media. And for this purpose, sufficient command of English or Hindi is a prerequisite. While it cannot be denied that an athlete with natural talent will find a way to rise despite a lack of communication skills, it is also equally undeniable that an athlete with the same level of talent who has established communication skills will have an even better chance of rising through the ranks. That is my answer to the first question posted to me. Is English language necessary for the advancement of career in sports in India? Absolutely. Not only English, also Hindi. If you can master either one of the two languages, then you have a career in sports, and even after your retirement. That is the topic which I am going to uh, deal with in the later part of my paper. The next question which the moderator asks is there a language problem among the Mizo athletes? My answer goes like this. Yes, but this extends not just to the Mizo athletes. The general Mizo population struggle with sufficient command of English and Hindi, and this has become a major barrier in our ventures. I don't know whether you agree with this or not, but this is what I've observed. Our neighboring northeastern states have seemed to fare better in this context with the general population of, say, Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, while not having perfect command, can negotiate Hindi well enough to pass any major language barrier, where the same cannot be said for the Mizo population. Yesterday, Mr. Changte was speaking something about Chalta hai English or Chalta hai Hindi. Even the basic Hindi is missing in Mizoram. The general population in the cities in Meghalaya, where I studied, mostly have excellent command of either English or Hindi. I can say this with confidence because I have witnessed myself. While Assam and Tripura have long been states with Hindi, where Hindi is prevalently used. So, if you look at the northeastern states, we are the one lagging behind when it comes to speaking these two languages which I've mentioned, Hindi and English. The Mizo population, however, while having a sufficient understanding of English, face a definite struggle in having speaking the language. If Mizo athletes are struggling with language barrier in their careers, it would be unfair to pin their shortcomings on themselves, as there is an unequivocal truth in the fact that the general Mizo population struggle with languages beyond our native tongue. I still remember about 10 years back when there was an outbreak of SARS. You still remember the bird flu and all those, uh, epidemic. There was a workshop conducted by the Center for Disease Prevention under the US government. They came all the way to Kolkata to organize a workshop. I was one of the participants. One of the speakers there, he happens to be from Voice of America, and he was saying like, I think I am the only person in this room who master only one language, that is English. All of you at least are able to communicate in your native language and English. Some of you are speaking 3 languages, some maybe more. But I am the only one who only learned one language, that is my native tongue. Having said that, the Mizo population in general, we may have a sufficient understanding of English, but we face, struggle, difficulties when it comes to speaking out. So in my paper, I've written down like, if Mizo athletes are struggling with language barrier in their careers, it would be unfair to pin their shortcomings on themselves, as there is an unequivocal truth in the fact that the general population struggle with languages beyond our native tongue. Yes, we do understand, but we find it very, very difficult to express ourselves, including me. And also we are reluctant to speak out in English, the language which we are, of course, familiar with, but we find it difficult to speak it out. So, having said that, if you ask me the details of it, what is the reason behind why we are reluctant to speak in English or maybe Hindi, I do not have an answer for this. So I will point to my fellow speakers at the end for the discussion regarding this. Day before yesterday, they have touched upon this topic, Professor Maggie and Professor Joy. Yesterday also in the evening, I've listened while working myself. I've listened, and Mr. Frida Changte also touched upon this. So I would request them again to help me out if there is any questions posed in this subject. I will come to the third point. That is, if there is a language problem, is there a language problems among the Mizo athletes? If so, to what extent can it hinder their career or future in sports? I said yes to the first question. And the answer to the second part is, it goes like this. A worthy analogy here would be the position of a teacher. Consider yourself in the position of a teacher and ask yourself, would you favor a pupil who struggles to grasp your lessons repeatedly, or the pupil who comprehends every lesson instantly? The Mizo football icon and torchbearer in professional football, Ismail Somplung Obama, he struggled with English in his early years in the Tata Football Academy. He did not understand anything. He came from a very remote village. He came to Aizawl. He settled here for a year or two after that. Because of his talent, he was selected to be a part of the Mizoram football team. He played so well, he performed so well that he was selected to be to join the Tata Football Academy, which by during that time was the premier football school in the country, and it still is, I can say. So when Mama was selected to be a part of the Tata Football Academy, he never heard of Tata Football Academy. He did not understand what football academy is all about. And also he do not, no, he did not speak English nor Hindi. He did not understand English. He struggled. He would train alongside his teammates and mimic their routines and patterns. Just imagine. He would train alongside his teammates and mimic their routines and patterns. Mama fought on despite a language barrier between him and his coaches. And while he has had a career despite a language barrier, Mama fought on despite a language barrier between him and his coaches. And while he has had a career worthy of inspiration, the question lingers as to just how far he would have reached had he understood the meaning of each training session. Had Mama understood all the training session which he had undergone, you just imagine what kind of career he could have had. Former Indian cricketers have gone on to Star Sports and ESPN, 10 Sports, Sony, you name it, where they broadcast and analyze matches in English. They are capable of such a transition because of their command of the language. Former Indian footballers have also transitioned to the media where they can express their views proficiently. If you look at the cricket world, if you listen to the commentators, they are all ex-cricketers. The Indian cricketers, of course, they have a very good command over the English language, not to mention Hindi, which of course is a mother tongue. But for us, we need to learn, learn, and learn. But having said that, even when it comes to football, Baichung Bhatia, of course, he is very much an expert. He's one of the leading TV pundits. Sunil Chetri is coming from a very good background, of course, a very, I'll say, well-to-do family, good education during his childhood. You listen to his interviews, he's second to none. Even Renedy Singh, our very neighbor from Manipur, is an ex-Indian footballer and ex-Indian captain, who is a very good friend of mine. He has a very, very good command over the English language. And he's sitting experts in the Star Sports and, and several news channels. Because not only because he's a good footballer, but also because he has a very good command over the language. Former Indian footballers have also transitioned to the media where they express their views proficiently. Does the Mizo community have athletes who will be capable of such transition after their playing careers? At present, very difficult to say yes. This is a question not just extended for athletes, but even to the general Mizo youth as well. Language has now become a major factor in the direction of careers after an athlete's playing days are over. I'm going to expand this because those days we used to say that a footballer has a very short career because he can only play for, let's say, 10 years, max 15 years. That's why he had to earn a lot during his playing career. So that, because of his early retirement, he will have to earn his bread and butter through football, during the 10 years for the rest of his life. But that's not anymore, because not only a footballer, a sports person, their career do not end when they retired. A career in sports, for most people, it would imply a playing career on the pitch, but sports now has grown in itself that there are fantastic career opportunities off the pitch as well. If an athlete decides to retire when the person can venture into coaching, if an athlete decides to retire, then the person can venture into coaching. A great coach will find creative offers in sports, but among the prerequisites to being a great coach is communication skill. Again, in the language. In short, a proper command of language outside our native tongue is imperative. That is my answer to the question. Is there a language problem among the Mizo athlete? If so, to what extent can it hinder their career promotion in sports? The next question which was asked to me, can there be a much deeper psychological effect due to the inability to communicate fluently? Definitely. We have been sending our youth players to training camps for national age group to Goa. One guy will take our young players to the training facilities, and the rest is up to them. We receive letters from the All India Football Federation that we are selecting Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. Z for the national camp. You please send them down to Goa. We will send the air tickets. We'll pay for their travels. If they are minor, they can be accompanied by one person. That person will, of course, guide them up to the training camp. He may not be allowed to enter the training camp, so it is up to the athlete. The camp consists of young footballers from all over the country, and the general language spoken will be Hindi, while English may also be used in some parts. In order to survive here without proper communication skills would be a terrifying challenge for a young developing child. You just imagine you send your child down to Goa, where he is to undergo a national training camp, where all his teammates or the future teammates will be speaking Hindi, and he is all alone, staying there without knowing anything about Hindi. At least he need to understand English. In order to survive here without proper communication skills would be a terrifying challenge. That's why I write it like this. For a young developing child, if a young player struggles with communication from his very first night, that will have an impact on his confidence. Definitely, it will have impact on his confidence. Some of them may make a fun because he do not understand what the coaches are saying. He may not understand what his colleague are talking about. A slump in confidence because of him not speaking Hindi or English will affect any athlete, no matter the level of talent and whatever the issues be off the pitch. A slump in confidence will affect any athlete, no matter the level of talent and whatever the issues be off the pitch, will in turn hamper performance on the pitch. These are all related. The off the field incident and the on pitch, these are all related. Nevertheless, if the will to succeed, work ethic and determination is there, it would be noted that language barrier is not an obstacle and it can be overcome. A common illustration of this aspect would be the professional football in England. Many bright young talents from South America tend to struggle in the Premier League, because these people, most of them speaks only Spanish. They came from Brazil, they came from Uruguay, they came from Argentina with huge talent. Everybody is talking about the next Messi coming from Argentina, the next Messi coming out from Brazil, joining, the top English Premier League clubs. Maybe the Chelseas, the Manchester Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, you name it. They came to England, but they struggled. Not because they don't, they have a bad footballing skill. When it comes to skill, they will be much better than the contemporary English players. But because they are coming from a different background, they speak different language. Because of their inability to speak English and understanding English, they struggled. There are lots of players, you can name it. One Sebastian Veron, Diego Forlan, and this is not a platform for all those football players' name. They struggled when they came to England, but the same player, when they when they migrated to Spain, they thrive. I wrote it down here also, and there are numerous instances where these athletes who struggle in England, then move on to Spain, where they speak their native tongue and then go on to thrive in success. So this is not, this is not only a problem of the Mizos. This is also a problem which is faced by many, I will say, South American athletes, even African. If you look at the statistics of uh, the African footballers who started a career from France, it is much more than the number of African players who started their footballing career from England, because many of the African countries speaks French. So they feel homely in Spain because they know the language. They I mean, not Spain, in France, because they know they speak French. So if you look at the South American countries where they are producing lots of talents, some of them may some of them may say that England is my first choice. I want to play in the Premier League. They came to England, they struggled because they don't understand the language. And of course, culture is completely different from South America. But Spain, it is not only the language, even the culture is much more, similar to the South American. So that is my question. I mean, that is my answer to the question, which goes like this: can there be a much deeper psychological effect due to the inability to communicate fluently? Definitely. And I have, answer my point. In the next one, is there a need to promote English language in sports?
I think our speaker has a problem with his network connectivity. I'll try to get to him. Okay, we have him back.
Yes. Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Where did I stop? Okay. Is there a need to promote English language in sports? In Mizoram sports, I will say yes. I mean, sports in the past generally indicate a local level or state level competition. I've said that we never imagined that our Mizo players will play for the Kolkata Giant. We never imagined that our players will play in Goa, will play for the national team. But now, if there can hardly be any Indian national football team at different level from sub junior to the senior without a Mizo player in it. Sports in the past generally indicate a local level or state level competition. The only exposure outside the state would usually be with the Mizoram teams. If you represent a Mizoram team, Mizoram football team, yes, you have a chance to play outside Mizoram, and only for that particular competition. But with the development of sports in the country and in the state, the scene has drastically changed. India has become a playground for us now too, and we have emerged as a force in Indian football. If a Mizo athlete or a Mizo team signs, then the media scrutiny follows. Talented and notable players quickly have substantial media following, and it is now imperative that in order to keep our competing with our in order to keep on competing with our rivals, we have to have a better command of the English language. There have been instances where athletes inferior to us on the field excel better than us off it by giving comprehensive interviews. On the field, we are good. Then after the match, a Mizo footballer is named, man of the match, and TV presenter wanted to do an interview with him, but if he cannot understand what he was asked, then there goes the problem, which we have witnessed in the past also. Another aspect that I have briefly touched upon in that sports extend is that sports extend beyond the pitch. I talk about off the pitch thing, coaching, management, sports reporting, etc. have become integral in the overall development of sport. And in order to continue this progress, a sufficient command of language is just as important as talent on the field. I talk about Baichung Bhutia, I talk about Sunil Chetri, I talk about, Renee Singh. I still remember when I first met Mary Kom, the world champion boxer, Olympic medalist. The first time I met Mary Kom was in Mizoram. If I remember it correctly, it was 2002 or 2003 when she first time became the world champion. She came to Mizoram representing Manipur in a women's boxing. I met her at Lamwal. And Jenny, of course, our very own world champion, Jenny introduced Mary Kom to me. And I spoke to her. She could hardly speak Mizo, a very broken Mizo, a broken Hindi, and a broken English. She mixed the three together. And I still remember when I visited her in this youth hostel at Luangwal where they were all camping. They had some problem because she represented Manipur and she was the only non-Meitei in that Manipuri team. She came to me, she approached me, and it was like she broke down. She cried. She had some problem because she was the only tribal she was the only tribal in the team. And because of our language difference, cultural difference, and so many differences, and maybe because her being the world champion and the rest of them are not, there are some kind of some problem, some I would say girly problem. Even the women boxers they have their problems. The reason why I'm saying all this is that when I met her, she could hardly speak any English. Hindi, of course, she could, she could speak something meaningful, but not very fluent. She speak, a bit of a Mizo as well. But the next time I met her was in 2013, I believe. I met her she was one of the speakers at the Young Leaders Connect in Guwahati. I was also one of the speakers there. I met her on the stage. I met Mary, do you remember me? And she said, yes, you are the one. And in that Young Leaders Connect, she spoke about 15, 20 minutes using a very good Hindi as well as in English. Maricom has changed. Not only that she excelled in the field, even off the pitch, outside the boxing ring, she has really improved. This is what I'm talking about here. And to my last point, that is there a need to promote English language in sports? If so, suggestions regarding how this can be fulfilled in Mizoram. I'll make it very brief now. I thought that I'll be able to finish within 30 minutes, but it took me around about 40 now. If so, suggestions regarding how this can be fulfilled in Mizoram. Most of our educational institutions in Mizoram are now quote-unquote English medium, which results in our youth having a sufficient command of basic English. In the past, English medium did not necessarily mean a great command in English, as our teachers themselves even struggled at times. I myself witnessed that during my school days. But such cases are a rarity now, and the command of the English language is constantly on the rise among the youth. If you look at the YouTube channels, if you look at the Instagram post, Facebook post, the kind of comment they've posted. We have many youth who has a very good command over the English language now. But despite this, a greater effort has to be emphasized on speaking the language. With regards to sports, grammar and literature are not as integral as the ability to communicate our ideas and viewpoint with clarity. Thus, we need to strive on the spoken English front. Spoken English. This is very, very important. Schools will be a place to start, but sports associations also have to take measures in this regard. As an association that sends a regular number of athletes out of the state, sorry, as an association that sends a great number of athletes out of the state, the Mizoram Football Association also has to improve its support in the
Yeah,
language.
đây là tụi ai? Tin thầy
Can I continue now?
Yes, you may, Putete.
Thank you. The MFA has already updated its news in Mizo and English due to the demands of the mainland media. We now have great exposure regarding media coverage. But the most important issue here is still the players. It is of the belief that most of our ISL players will now have the communication skills that they will be asked of them during their careers, at least in English or Hindi. But it is those players who have been groomed within the state that will struggle, groomed at a young age with local familiarity, and then receiving exposure only after reaching adulthood. It can be further difficult for these players to adjust and learn. Because of this, just as we use the catchphrase, catch them young in sports, in order to have a comprehensive grasp of language, lessons from a young age is consequential. This is a message that is crucial in regards to sports and language. The need for development of the field has been highlighted. And in this endeavor, the role of sports administrators will also hold vital importance. That is what I have written down. And as I said in the beginning, I'm not well versed in the other topics, careers, English language or whatever. But I have just done my part when it comes to speaking about or reading about the career, English language, and the Mizo athlete. I will stop it here. I will give the stage back to our moderator. And I will be happy if you don't ask me any questions because, I will struggle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Putetia, for addressing all our questions directly. It was extremely informative, it was extremely educational and also emotional in a way. I don't know, I felt emotional when you talk about the personal experiences of our athletes outside Mizoram. And I truly hope that from your speech alone, we realize the need to expand our horizon. And I hope that the government, as well as the general public, Mizo public, realizes that, the problems that we are facing is not just in infrastructure, but also in language. And so there may be, the demand to the government regarding language schools maybe separately for athletes. And we need voices like yours and many more to carry and communicate these problems across. So I thank you sincerely for, sharing your voice today. It means a lot. So chanem ngaya na ema zo na po hi participants atangina tam karinga I chu wang chuan in nakina zo na tuna po ron lut ngal to a I mizo tonga chan thei vek ania kha ka chu voina chuan in bilingual kha kan phalanga tin English ti du pon kha either way in and zo na kha chu I lo chang mai don nia mai ro chu tuna chuan in zo na hun kan hong shi lawanga kan second session a Kanchananga, we will move on to the second session. We will have our next speaker, Reverend Zosang Lenakolni, and then later on, after our second speaker finishes his speech, we will have a collective discussion session. And at that time, we will allow the means of communication to be bilingual, because I think there are a number of problems that cannot be addressed in English alone. So therefore, participants are also welcome, to post your questions in the chat box. To prepare questions for both the speakers, so that we will have another fruitful discussion session. Again, thank you, Putritea. We will get back to you after the second session. So we will start the second session now. For the second session, we have Reverend Zosang Lenakolni, a retired, I will give his introduction first before I ask him to speak. He is a retired presbyter of the Mizoram Presbyterian Church. While he was working, he held a number of high offices, which I think we don't have time to elaborate, but I will say that he was one of the bulwark of the church before he retired. And after retirement from the church service, he joined the state of Mizoram government as the member and later the chairman of Mizoram Public Service Commission. And he retired from the government in November 2019. He is still engaged as the principal of the English Congregation School by Mizoram Presbyterian Church since April 2020. So it is a huge honor to have Reverend Zosang Lenakolni with us today. We sincerely thank him for sparing his for sparing time from his busy schedule. And with regard to our topic today, we thought there is no better one to approach other than him, because apart from his services for the church, his immense knowledge and his experience alone, the experience that he had during his time in Mizoram Public Service Commission is sure to be beneficial for the youth today. And that is why we had approached him, for this session. We invite him to take his time and speak on the larger topic of language debate in Mizoram, as well as his experience in MPSC, particularly in conducting interviews and assessing the knowledge and language competency of Mizo youths in general. I welcome you, sir, to begin your talk.
Thank you, Nanavi. Now we are in the last session. And when I heard that my turn is at 3 o'clock in the evening, it reminds me of the extra class after the usual daily routine was over in the school. One of my friends used to say that time is the worst part of the day. So we are now in the worst part of the day, that you have to have another session now. And seeing a pastor at this late hour of the day, you may think that I am here to offer a closing prayer or what we call benediction, but I am not. And I'm asked to say something. Of course, something, not many things. I don't have many things to say like other speakers like Pusriata, Tetea, and whoever. So I'm going to say something regarding to uh, the youth, career, and English language. So at the very outset, I would like to thank the English Department of Khosal College, particularly the organizing secretary, Dr. Lorin Chani Nanavi, for giving me this chance of participating in this 3 days webinar series on Mizo society and English language. Yes, it is really a great joy and of course an honor for me to be part of this webinar, in spite of my humble status and limitations to be amongst you academic intellectuals today. If I'm not mistaken, I understand that this session is not an academic session of English literature as such, like what it might have been in the last 2 days of this series. Rather, I am here to focus on the need and essentiality of English language in our society, especially for those who are molding up their career in life. Since I'm neither a scholar nor a researcher, and not an academician either, my approach to the topic assigned to me today would be a kind of personal observation basing on a very meager experience I had in encountering with some of the Mizo youth in the recruitment interviews during my tenure as one of the members and as the chairman of the Mizoram Public Service Commission. As we all know, English is the most spoken language in the world. We know more than 1.1 billion people speak English as their first language, and about 470 million people use it as their second language in the world. Thus, English occupies the position of global lingua franca, and the importance of English as an universal language cannot be ignored today. We may therefore conclude that English is the basic necessity to explore a larger part of the world through learning or by physical exposure. To prepare oneself for a career, one has to learn the required knowledge for the career he chose. In order to do that, he has to gather and master whatever information is available related to that particular career. Information collected, though available not verbally, has to be expressed for materialization through verbal mode, that is, use of language, be it in print or spoken. Thus, language is one of the most important tools for the development of one's career. We know to succeed in this world where jobs are scarce and competition is high, it is imperative that we hone our communication skills, that is, improve upon our English. For instance, English is the language used for official communication, for meetings, presentations, training, conferences, letter writing, document reports, so on and so forth, everywhere. English language is therefore very essential for all kinds of career or services, and the competence of English language remains one of the most important criteria in the recruitment or selection of personnel for different professions. As for us, the Mizos, this important foreign language, English, was brought about first by the British rulers in the year around 1871, and thereafter by the Christian missionaries in 1894. The Mizo learned this language initially from the missionaries who opened schools where some young Mizos were taught elementary English. One missionary, namely Reverend James Herbert Lorraine, was credited with publication of Dictionary of Lusai Language in the year 1940. We know this dictionary still today is one of the most sought after dictionaries of its kind among the Mizos. Since then, English plays a very important role in the Mizo society, and it continues to be a compulsory subject in the schools and colleges. Besides, English is recognized as an official language for communication in the Mizoram government, paving the way for popularizations of the language. In addition to introduction of English in schools, the entry of the internet and its various compulsory computer and smartphones applications have helped to expose the Mizo youth to the English language. And today, the Mizo people, by and large, have shed their inhibition they had towards English language before. Thus, the Mizo youth of today are much more confident in the use of English language in spoken and written form. Actually, we cannot do without English today. As a result, there are a lot of English words that are used as the Mizo language. For example, office, radio, television, bedroom, agriculture, bill, contract, committee, and so on. Not only that, our expressions too are interspersed with English words. For example, we used to say, bathroom light ka off, bathroom light ka off, or office ration card application ka submit. See, these are Mizo words. There are many more examples of these kinds. However, this popularity of English words does not mean that our standard of English language is well and good enough. We may not measure here knowledge of vocabularies as a proficiency in English. The more important thing to be considered is to be able to use those vocabularies grammatically in the sentences. Moreover, after one is familiar with the principal rules of grammar like parts of speech, clauses, phrases, idioms, one can still be very poor in comprehension and good writing. So in a close-knit Mizo community united by one common language, the Mizo tongue or Mizo language, we the Mizos are hesitant to speak other languages. But the official requirement of English language in the state has been instrumental to a large extent in making the Mizo more confident in the written form of English than in speaking. Over years, English as a language has made inroads into Mizoram on account of Mizo youth venturing out to maintain to mainland India for works at all levels of employment and pursuit of academic studies from primary level to postgraduate level and even higher. And increase of English medium schools at the level of elementary education and the competition among themselves have contributed much for the improvement of spoken English in the younger generations of the society. So from what I have seen of the performances of our Mizo boys and girls in the personal interviews conducted by the Mizoram Public Service Commission for recruitment in various posts, I am of the opinion that there has been considerable progress and improvement in the usage and articulation of English among the Mizos compared to the standard that had prevailed before the last 2 or 3 decades ago. It needs to be mentioned here that since the chairman and members of the commission are not involved in setting the test papers and in the scrutiny of the answer papers, whatever assessment or opinion being made or expressed here solely based on the verbal interactions that had taken place during personal interviews. So far as my experience in the MPS is concerned, I recognize 3 types of candidates. First, those who are not fluent in spoken English but better in writing. And those who are fluent in spoken English but lack an in-depth knowledge or below average in writing the language itself. And lastly, very few of them who are up to the mark both in writing and spoken English. Here, my point is one has to be good both in writing and speaking in the language. Generally, the Mizo girl seems to have an edge over the boys so far as fluency and mastery of the English language is concerned. What is surprising and yet encouraging too is the fact that some of our graduates who had never set foot outside the state for education were able to express themselves very well and with commendable degree of fluency. This trend is in quite contrast with the popular notion that only those students who had their schooling in convent or good boarding schools outside the state would speak fluent English. As I have pointed out earlier, the Mizo boys in general are weaker than the girls in this respect. I don't mean that all boys are not good and all girls are good, but in general speaking, Mizo boys are weaker than the girls in this respect. In most cases, the boy candidate seems unconfident and reluctant to speak in English, And even when they speak, they would usually falter and mumble and come out with sentences which are not clear and expressive. The reason for this, in my opinion, could only be due to lack of practice or interaction in English, inadequate reading, studying, and failure to improve one's vocabulary, and most notably, absence of the will or zeal to learn and improve. What I would like you to note at this point is that whereas fluency is very essential for getting through recruitment tests and also for well performance in the service, glibness per se is not the foundation of success. I think sometimes fluency in English makes some candidates overconfident in the interview sessions. For instance, during my tenure in the commission, I was involving in interview sessions of 4 batches of combined state civil services. Toppers in these 4 batches are all male, except in the last batch. I have mentioned rightly that girls are having better command of English language, but they seldom stood first in the combined services exam. This clearly shows that those who are weaker in spoken English won over because maybe the written examination carries much more marks than viva voce. In my general observation, the product of English medium institutions are fluent in English, but mostly lack an in-depth knowledge and mastery of the subject domain. As I've mentioned earlier, that we, the members and chairman of the commission, are not taking part in the evaluation and scrutiny of the written exams of the candidates. What is still clear to me is that those who are fluent in English hardly done well in the written part of the recruitment test due to lack of writing skill and mainly due to lack of mastery of subject content. I have pointed out that our girls are better compared to our boys, but that does not mean that girls are good enough. There is a big room for improvement for all. The skill and depth of one's knowledge of the English language is easily known by the way one describes things, like the way they describe an event, a characters, or values. So, making a habit of reading magazines, newspapers, novel, and watching news, etc., on TV, all in English, of course, and making conversation in English with friends, both Mizos and non-Mizos, even on phones, and learning a few new words every day would go a long way in enriching our knowledge and mastery of the English language. We are to create intentional, deliberate, artificial, simulated English speaking environment by making or organizing English language related activities by ourselves. As we are living in a high competitive world where English plays a vital role, we cannot gloss over the need for learning English. That is not essentially to recommend English medium school at elementary level. Actually, medium of instruction in a mother tongue at primary level is not much a hindrance to future English education. And we know as of now, the new education policy advocates one's mother tongue to be a medium of teaching in the elementary level of education. Since English has come to stay with us, it is incumbent upon us to grasp the language and make use of it effectively. Given the length of time English has been with us, we are supposed to be fairly fluent and confident in its use. Maybe we remain complacent too soon, as much as we take false pride when we graduated from higher school and college. Let us remember that graduation from university is merely a gateway to learning further, more so to improve our English. Of course, we may not compete with Winston Churchill or John F. Kennedy in English writing and speaking. We may be no match for other native English speakers either, but at least we can improve our English by reading books on current English uses, authored by subject experts like T.F. Wood or Norman Lewis and others. And we can make a habit of testing ourselves. For example, recording our voice in English and play it back, and learn by rote the quotations of famous people like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address or Jawaharlal Nehru's Independence Day speech. Long years ago, we met trees, the destiny. So in conclusion, let me try to summarize what I'm saying today. Whereas there is a lot of improvement in the usage of English language among the Mizos, it is clear to me that most of the candidates in the recruitment interviews cannot express themselves well enough of what they know, and that those who are comparatively better in spoken English are not well equipped in knowledge of the subject domain. As I have said, to succeed in this world where jobs are scarce and competition is high, it is imperative that we sharpen our communication skills, that is, improve upon our English. Again, fluency in the language per se is not the sole means of success without having required knowledge to express. So, as mentioned earlier, our young boys and girls need to engage themselves more in the habit of reading good books, magazines, newspapers, listening and watching useful television channel in, instead of spending more time in other time consuming media like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Regarding spoken English, lack of practice or interaction in the language, and failure to enrich one's vocabulary and absence of the will to improve and learn are the main hindrances. As a matter of fact, there is no ending in learning English language, perhaps because it is a very rich and at the same time a very complex language. Beyond our limited knowledge of this language, there is still a vast unexplored area we must remember. So the message here is learn, practice, and improve more and more day by day. Thank you and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very informative and once again a didactic talk. I'm sure that the participants have much to note down, especially when it comes to appearing for interviews and preparing for interviews, and also in exploring the larger scope of language that you emphasized in your talk. So now, while I give our current speaker the time to relax, I would invite from the participants. And I will also take this opportunity to deliver a very short vote of thanks because I feel that at the end of the session, it might not be practical and effective later. So I have with us, we have Pusha Tatsangte and also P. Margaret. Professor Margaret Zozama and our other speaker, Putetea. The other two speakers, Professor Joy Patsau and Adam, I think, will be joining us later. So I will take this opportunity to deliver a very quick vote of thanks. First of all, on behalf of the principal of Government Khosol College and also the Department of English, on behalf of all my colleagues, I extend my sincere appreciation and a very hearty gratitude to all the speakers for gracing our webinar series and sharing with us your contribution. Uh, and sharing with us and your experiences, your thoughts, your opinions, your perspectives on language, and your contributions have made this 3 days webinar series a success. So a big thank you to Professor Margaret Zozama for her efforts in taking us to the history books and making us understand the importance of English, and at the same time the importance to treasure and preserve language, Mizo language, in its purest form. May you continue to bloom, and may you command as much respect as ever. Next, I would like to thank Professor Joy L.K. Patswal, our deepest sense of appreciation for your work, ma'am. Your effort to make people understand the manner in which you have highlighted the methods that the Christian missionaries use for the development and enrichment of Mizo language in a positive way through dialogue and discussion was a true eye opener, and I feel that that was unfamiliar to most of the listeners as well. So we hope that your work would continue to inspire many generations to come. Next, I would like to thank. Speaker Adam Sabrin Sanga for sharing his experience in journalism, the prospects and challenges for a journalist in Mizoram. I'm sure the audience, especially the younger lot, must have gained a lot from his insightful talk, and I hope that he would have inspired many like him. So Pushyata Thangte, his zeal, enthusiasm, his charisma, his ability to connect with the audience was just second to none. And our sincerest gratitude to him for his effort to imbibe the necessity to inculcate the skills to express oneself to whomever one comes across in every walk of life. Next, Putete Ahmar, our speaker today, or may I say the people's man, as he is fondly called, a term much contested maybe by Pusha Tatsangte. You both win our hearts again and again through your never-ending zeal to uplift Mizo youth and the general Mizo public. Putetea, may you always shine, and may your efforts in promoting Mizo youth sow more seeds in the future. Last but not the least, as I have moved through in order of the sessions in which they appeared, I would like to thank our respected Reverend Zosang Lianakolni for being an example to the youth, for sharing your experiences, for not retiring, and for continuing to influence and inspire us all. We wish you continue to use your experiences to encourage and teach the present as well as the future generations. We are extremely grateful to all the participants for the positive feedbacks that we have received and for actively getting involved throughout our 3 days webinar series. And the value of your enthusiastic participation for these 3 days can truly be not expressed in words. Lastly, I would like to express my gratitude to MS Academy for the permission to broadcast the live stream through your YouTube channel. And also Mr. Rubin, I think you can hear me, for his immense contribution in the technical side of things. So thank you, everyone. So now we will move on to the discussion session. I have already received some questions in the chat box. I would invite the rest of the participants to please ponder on what was being said today, and even on the previous 2 sessions that we have had. So we would invite questions. Please take an opportunity to, to ask questions to our respected speakers, because you might not have them all together in one platform in the future. So please take this opportunity to extend your questions to them. And as I have mentioned to Putetea, we can be like bilingual in this discussion session, because as we have said, many cannot be expressed in in a language which is not our mother tongue. So feel free to express your perspectives, your opinions in Mizo as well. Can I have the speakers join us? Pushyata, P. Margaret, Puzo Sang Liana, and Putetea.
Hi.
So Hope we have Putetea with us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, welcome all. So now we will have a collective discussion on the questions that is being posed by the participants, posted by the participants. This is a question to Putetea. And okay, before this, there is a question to everyone that all the resource persons can react to. I will just read it out. This is a question posed by Lal Khanswa. Regarding the reluctance to speak in English, how far do you think our sense of humor played a role? This is in the context of xenophobic jokes and particularly the prevalence of Zhong Pai Fiam Tu among the Mizos, how that might strengthen the process of othering, especially towards different Zonatlak staying outside Mizoram, or how one who doesn't speak fluent or broken or slightly off accent Mizo language easily make its way as a form of derision. In a similar strain, is there a feeling and hence the hesitation that we might end up being a laughing stock when we speak English? So first, I will invite the two speakers of today. If you would like to answer this question in Mizo, you're most welcome. And after that, I will go on to the other speakers who are present here today. Do I need to repeat the question?
Adik thui vewin karinga. Until nam dang vek zinga chuan kan trong pop thei lai khan Mizo pakhat alo umpo khan kan tim pha tani achan chu chuti chuan ati atian ni jasiam na kan in man zui le thin awang ani em ti zo na kha thil ni thei tak tura kai chuan ka ngai fiam thu na kan trong dan le kan thiam lo dan emo kan mang zui thina kha kan trong kan khep pha ve chuan ka ring
Putetea soituri name.
Harang ring azona kha puzo sa soi kha dik thui len kringa kan lau em ka khachi lo ba mai ro chu yanin nui thin te hi apoya kadil ruwa lo ber chu sap tung a hian ani kher lo in ger ya ichina non so yang che khan hemi mi zo na tlak po hi kan khot chuana zirte kan sor chuana zirte kan omna state zirte hianin kan trong hi lo inang lo khup maya hemi mi zo trong kan ti dulian trong kan ti po hi kan man da ne lo ni chu po chu kan in tlat mai lai hi a poin ger ya hovela hian trong pai in nui do ni lang chuan nui tur hin tam khopin keringa chuan hi chu kan pai bo ngai kan society hin kan pai bo ngai ger ya sap trong a chang ani lo trong dang ke mani trong ne ya po a trong pai hi kan trong mang anga trong ve lo deu hi kan nui zat deu thlat mai wa hian in har san na kan tok chho ni in ka ria hi kan ti top don chuan karil ruwa lom thin chu kan thlir na hi zaw ngai ani kan wa chu tam hian thili kan lo he don so ani ai zol hian holo se kan sei du chu ai zol chawa kan om hian sap trong chu sei lo mizo ve tho mizo trong tle ma mang dang lam deu hi kan pom thiam ni lo amai ro chu khothana han kalila emo entinan vairam khoi danga te khami mizoram hun rang mi te kan mizo u naw te manipur mi te hun danga mi te nen khowila chumin huwa chon e heu kan ke kan the thiam don chau hi lo nia wan chuan thir zaw ngai kan kho hoya zaw ngai puri tan sei chun som te se
te ron se te le puso sa se ka adik reng line thil pakhat ka se ve du chu mizo hi makdo mai chu kan ni no lo ang tak lan kan do wang hian mi min nui te kan lau ta ni antenan ke po ke ma mi ji chuan I thil te kan boi pui ve media mo ngam kan ta mi te lom zong tur ngai tua ka che chuan kan ni turang kan ni lo pha ta ni dimina kan ka sei to min nui du chuan amo min ngai sang lo du chuan ngai sang lo tur sen khatam takom ta ni kha mi min ngai san ringot ka ngai tua chuan ka thil ti tu tha kha ti thei don ta lo ni tu na yen de na se kai ta me la pulal than ho la ka be don khan congress ho min ho don ti ka har mar se congress ho huat ni ai chuan pulal than ho la be ka thang jok ta ni khateng che khanin I tu na chuan entina ei ru po poi ti lo zak lo mi te bum po poi ti lo do se po poi ti lo khan trung pai khak pui kan ti thiang lo ko de ni chung trung pai te me chu ka seng khanin I ka mi zo trung hi ka trung na la ka seng khan mar chu a je phe ku se dik fak chuang bik lo ba man ne me pakhaten ram khoi tu ni tum ve bok si inge ni ani ti po I je thiam lo ne ron tia ram khoi tu ka ni tum lo I hriam mi ka tia tik tik khanin apoi molai ta ga jok chuanin mi min ngai dan turain mi tan thil tha kan tiam ti hen ngai jok sa la kadua chu a trong ma pai a sap trong a ka cha lu tu pu he ta sap trong chu a thim tang lu tu ti ma se nge poina mo ta khan screen tok tur chi kan ne be ngai ta ni chu wain the surest way to become unsuccessful in life is to try to please everybody around you ni ta ni if you want to go far, be ready to go alone. Okay? Chuan mi crowd jong bang Mizo trong a niak tam lam kan tiang chi kan tui lu tuk le kan khalam pang lang mo kan tum lu tuk henin it's killing us katin chu bangin let us be ourselves more we have every right to be laughed at and in a similar way we have every right to laugh at others also katitani chu bangin tinan kepo thil thanuk dia kai ngai lai hen tinan corruption te kan ho kan dowa corruption kan huwa kan do chuan a corrupt ho khan min hung nge tur ni corrupt ho in min huat si lo corruption do ko inti ve chuan a futa lo ni chu wangi mi zong lom thu lom zong kan sei thilo mi zong ngai san ni tum lo tu ke mani kan ngai san phalo poi mo ni me ko sei ka confidence level ka ke mani kan ngai san phalo chu mi ten min ngai san turin kan be se thiang lo ni chu an mani ngai san tu zona Mizo troma mo sap troma mo hindi mo affluency mo alam mo dana kan boy lo tur alam mo dana kan ei mu har lu tuk mo atang kai lo lu tuk ni ti ka sei da
I speak fluently in broken Hindi ti kha tha
yeah that's what language basically is for a tool to achieve my aim to get my job done okay you cannot be smart in every aspects of life be smart to be good to be yourself first so that you can be good to others tika ka political contribute very many too
Okay, now I invite Professor Margaret to share her opinions.
Oh, thank you, Rinsan. Ni hey chu kan soi chak veka toy te in kan soi anga adik renga midang ani na che chan hei chu kan la zir zelang mizo hi kan hoi zau ve tel tela zin chok thei lo po smartphone zara mi nam dangam dan zia tele a fing deuh phei chan mi culture te an juk muthiam ta smartphone kal tlang pon chu ang chan voi diang hian tu mai hian chuan lam hi kan nei em lem to lova khoi lai khokil khora moka oma kan shelo em alom ti hi chu ani to lo devin ka sia I hemi lai a hian kan soi du chu Mizo sia hian midang han nui zat fiam thu le midang nui zat mei hi kan chin em awang hian mi hian min nui zat ang ti hi kan lawani nam dang zinga po chu wang chan ne trong te hi kan huai lo na chan chu nam dang zinga han oma sa trong han mo hindi te hi ke ni po midang kan nui zat te mo kan hu sit mal de tuk ang hian midang hian min musitang amin nui zat ang ti kan lawang mai ania ma se nimina kan sai ang khanin language hi chu communication ani ti hi thai ngil lawila ka soi du kha ka soya if I get across what I want to say athani mai kha atok le ni ti kha sia ila kan trong na le em mo enge mo kha tu lo ka mad tang ani lo kai cha ama ro chu mani mad tang na chu ka trong dik lo mo ka zia dik thai lo ro chanin ka in en let via wa ngai an ti hi ka hai dan ani a khami lai kha kan wan deuh khan kan soi du ni tin hemi lai a hian kan soi lai du chu trong chung chang re nga hian kan fa te pon ya ke ma ngei po hi kan ia convent ta te upbringing kan lo nei awang hian mi hian preconceived notion si an lo nei em me thil chin chang she tur ka ngai te po hian en tir nan I ka mai chana po hian voi khat chu hei hi ka dong to nang te chu han thi dan khan nang te chu in privilege ta te trong in content ta in sei liana te chu thiam tur in ya English tur man tur nya ke ni te chu vanakula school a te trong kan no chu ti chung chuan tun hi kan thlenga min han ti khum ka iban shelo mei e katia ke hi AOB in zirtir kani hi ABC zira wang khan AOB hi I am self taught chu wan jan nang ain kat kasoi rangin kasoi thiam jok mai thei ni potena katia tin e tap trong ka thiama wang hian ka thil ziak reng le ka articles le meeting a conference te seminar te khoya po kan kala kutilai America te po toi reilo te kan zugzina hetila Israel te po ka zukala India sahitya min thanga writers pangazi nga katel ve a kan zukala Mizo chungchang chura chanchin thengin soidar tu kan hi kan pasal thak te kan Mizo pride le thlom ngai na te hi aziak tu le asoidar tu kan ni ve sin nang engzan nge khami akhani contribution tunge Mizo engangin nge Mizo ness hi kan te kati khumani sap trong kan lo thiam awanga da zat le sap trong mil nial nia in hu hi kan fa te po khoi lo wa kal se ba sa ten chonga bank ka te enge mo unau te ne na enge mo nin comentan han trong ser te kha an lo ni izata even in ti sap trong thiam ve an han te kha attitude kha Mizo wa hianin tuna hianin kan pai angai to kan pai mek boka kan ti thei lo ani chuan a ti thei ate khawangei lem lo la thik lem lo la amaro chu an Mizo ness a hi chu ba question ker lo la tra ka ti la ya kha ka soi du a Mizo chanchin le Mizo pride ta hi a the dar tu ber an lo ni mai thei ni ti ta hi ngai to nga chuan jan trong a phoi han kan zap tu ra ni le nang ke ko ka trong hi ni min pushatan a Hindi a soyang khan broken Hindi po ka confident deng ka trong pe ke po hi fiam tu in bazar Hindi hi kathia ma katitina ke ya soi vedan chan I speak bazar Hindi chen te zing a po mi po hi an ni za thau khung university at po oh madam you know how to speak Hindi an tia min fak der thiam em ani kai ka Hindi kha adik bek lo ti ka sia ma se ka soi du chuanin ka za pui chong lo ka tong me ni khatiang de urek khanin kan zir chau hi ngai to a una te po ani chu ti hian a sei thei ram she can afford to speak like this because she's educated or she was a professor te min ti ni mai thei ani lo no pang te kan ni atangin hemi zia ang why sen tu razia hi chu manin kan in zir tir ve a nu le pa te u le nau te zara po kan in zir tir kan zir thei ani thingklang kil kor bera po kalila mo chuan chan karin ain Mizo trong ivan lo thiam ve ti ka hlo te hian kalom reng lo kalom lo deuh thin engwangin nge ka thiam ang Mizo nu ka ni hi engwang nge Mizo trong ka thiam lo te lu lang ti kha keima hian na lang hal me a chuan chanin mi nui zat le mi han soi se le mo han diriam me mo te hi kan zia hian kan tirang lu tu ki min ti ve do ne mo ti ngai na wang hian kan do isep pakhat nin ka sia imina confidence lack of confidence kha wardengin kan soya lack of confidence kha kami po kan a contribute reng ni kan share claim lu tu ka reading culture hi bo vek to tu na hian mobile kan ena enge kan thil share te hi thil kan siren thil tha kan su share em ti hi ngai to thama on thank you
Vincent Calori ak lok ve khan le lok
Definitely.
ka soi du chu Mizo nu na hian ni za thak do me am chu motor nei ve lo point mi motor hui deu le bal deu kan si lungat me ni chu tiang le gal chu kan ne tin chu me la ni lo wa mi chung chang chi zo nga kan ba soi hian ki ma ni hian feel good factor kan ne ni chu mi antinan te thar lo na ka soi hian ki ma hi ka that chuang me lo ni chu wang che chuan kan hre tur chu mi na ain san sap chung dik lo mon Mizo chung a pai mo a kan va te khan ki ma ni kan chang ka tian chung lo antinan sap chung a sap chung Mizo lu tu anti ho te poi he ron ti tu te poi he han chung tir chin la niam fan ni vete tho chu vain mi van ui ve shim shim mo again mi chung leng ni ven ai shena kan that is quite false tika apoi mota tuna sei pe margaret na sei confidence kan nei lo kon ki poka intimidated ngani up society lo close lo thei lo kan ita an sei fo thin angin tamil hong do le kan ya kan kan khoi mu na po mila group kan siam thin ni chumi chu a group chung kan por velu tu ma se malkat nun ring tu nun kan seng nu lagin ring tu nun chu malkat nun yang che khan mizo nun po kham malkat na khan alang pura ni ka te ni a hu ho to mai ti te hu ho mizo te chu kan ti thei mai amara chu malkat nun mizo dang mi lo na po khan by the way am mizo christian ting am khapoi mo ta ni chu wangin mi bani be shim shim kha chang ka mo an ne na kan kem thu du na wang ta pon kai ni da shim shim nui tu lai kan she em le na la chu mizo society nom na le so na rim like e kan se be le la bu ni
We can move on to the next. Yeah, I think we can move on to the next question. This is a question posed directly to Myanmar, but then all the other speakers are also most welcome to join if any views on this. I will read out the question. A question by Job Ni Nain Sepa. As per your views, there is a huge impact of poor communication skills in the career of our young aspirants as well as our professional athletes. Question is this problem heard and recognized by our sports associations? If so, has there been any measures taken to solve the problem from the association? Do you think it will be possible to make a kind of arrangement to start spoken English or Hindi class for our young sports aspirants? Putete mar ka mem o. Azona ka ishet yangem.
We can let communication ka loss there are connectivity chalo mo. Mil lozo lelo please.
As per your views, there is a huge impact of poor communication skills in the career of our young aspirants as well as our professional athletes. So the question is this problem heard and recognized by our sports associations? If so, has there been any measures taken to solve the problem from the association? And do you think it will be possible to make a kind of arrangement to start spoken English or Hindi class for our young sports aspirants?
I think I have mentioned that in my paper. On the last part, I have written it down like this. Just as we use the catchphrase "catch them young" in sports in order to have a comprehensive grasp of the language, lessons from a young age is consequential. This is a message that is crucial in regards to sports and language. The need for development of the field has been highlighted. And in this endeavor, the role of sports administrators will also hold vital importance. Here, the sports administrators, it can refer to Mizoram Football Association, or the Basketball Association, or the Judo Association. Yes, I mean, you must have heard about one of our players who had given an interview after the match that they were laughing at him because he could not understand what the question was, and the way he answered it was, of course, very, I will say, very, very, very bizarre. But after that, I approached that particular player and I spoke to him that you should not be ashamed of yourself that you could not, express yourself in Hindi or in English, because I know your background, I know where you're coming from. You're not an English student. But having said that, if you are to grow as a professional, you will need to learn at least the basic Hindi or English. I mean, that was my personal message to him. As an association, we have discussed about this, but as I said, this is not very much of a purview. As you have suggested after my paper, I think we have to go back to the government, the sports department, or maybe to the education department, if they can give us, at least a kind of, maybe a English teacher or someone who, who could educate our players, at least the basic knowledge of English. There are some, football academies in the state where they're given a very good English education. I mean, for instance, you go to Tata Trust Center of Excellence at Mizo, you have a very good English teacher there. The players who are groomed in that academy, I'm sure that they will be able to, communicate in English and as well as in Hindi. But they are the privileged ones. They are the ones who can afford to be in that particular football academy because of their skill level, because of being selected among thousands. But we have many other such players who do not have that luxury. So it is, I will say, yes, of course, it is our duty to educate the boys, but it is more the duty of the government, maybe from the Mizoram State Sports Council or maybe from the sports department, where if they can have at least a basic, English, class for the players who are to be, who are to represent a state, not only in football, even in the other disciplines, that would be a very good move.
Okay, I think that answers the questions very well. Can we have any other opinions from the other speakers?
Rinjan,
Yeah.
I'll make it a point. The fact is that in sports also, like in any other professional line, the game, the activities inside the ground can be called as hardware, okay? The hardware part. So if you are good in the hard skills, say, if you score very high, if you're very efficient, if you're very good in games, there is no doubt that you cannot be neglected. But the fact is that once you are equally good with somebody and the other person is good in soft skills, communication helps you in soft skills. Like I used to say, our very good players, like say the football players, had they been able to communicate as good as Baichung Bhutia, or say, where is that the other guy, that Nepali fellow?
Sunil
Chetri. Certainly they'll be recognized. Now we are talking about, let me just come back to JJ Award, Arjuna Award. If JJ had been able to speak to their coaches, not only in English, but also in Hindi, there will be a soft corner for him. So I will compare these things in terms of UPSC exams. In UPSC exams, the written part is on the football ground. If you score very good, and if you are not good in the soft skill in the interview also, then you get selected. But in order to be selected all the time and to be recognized, you have to be extraordinarily good in your game. Now, the interview part comes. Why many Mizos are not selected for IAS? Because they just scrap through the main exams. Say, suppose the qualifying mark is 200 out of 500, they just have to 202, 220. But another tribal, Amina, scored 450 out of 500. So even if he doesn't do good in the interview, he's still selected. So my idea, I'm supporting Tete because the fact that the most important thing for a sports person is the hard skills, the skills on the ground itself. But off the ground, you have to have some at least reasonable soft skills. Otherwise, you cannot really rise very high. So for the young people who are in any professionals, like say, for example, if you're joining a multinational company also, your skills in computer may be very good. But if you don't know how to please your boss, you're not very high in the ladder again. So which is more important is very difficult to say. You may be from IIT Kharagpur, or say from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but you look like dumb, you don't talk to anybody, okay, you're always keeping to yourself, you cannot rise in a company. Okay, so we have to combine both hard skills and soft skills. The physical attributes is one thing, and the soft skill is very, very important to really rise higher level. Okay, so I am afraid that most of our sports person in the national field, be it football, hockey, weightlifting, or anything, they are not being able to communicate and mesmerize or convince their bosses, who will be doing the marketing for them. Okay, so I think I'm supporting that there, but the most important thing being the physical attributes, physical talents have to be there, and then the soft skills will come. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Nye poi mo khop me begin Mizoram chuanin putete soyang deuh khan Tata Academy te omta mase anei nung fa te angte kal theina ania ro zu sarkarina khatiang angchi abot seilo khachuan eta enge aizol pona changa English medium school akal lo mase talent nature takte hatiang tang khanin national level interview face te khatiang ang chi thil dang langa kai noi anga kha khatiang excel kha hare mem dona chuwang chuan ni azona pokha poimo khop meya khatiang ang zonga mi pui po ina sarkar kan nor thiam kha poimo le ni ti kha pute te soya tang pokha ni na sha the ome I think we can move on to the next question. And this is a question that is being asked to all the speakers by Lalreng many English medium schools stress upon spoken English to the extent that they discipline their students who speaks in Mizo language in the school. On the other hand, I find some opinion in social media that it is a deprivation of child's right to speak in their mother tongue. What is your opinion on the issue? Maybe we can ask Professor Margaret to lead the discussion.
Yeah, we had addressed this problem yesterday, was it, or the day before, about being punished for not speaking speaking in your mother tongue in the school compound and so on and so forth. See, we may talk about our rights or our fundamental rights. At the same time, when we get admitted to an institution, to a school, a college, there are ground rules which we agree to abide by. And in a school, if English medium school, if they are pretty strict about you using the language, not speaking in your mother tongue within the confines of the school compound, for example, and you get punished for it, or you get reprimanded for it, I think it is absolutely within the rights of the school authorities. Only thing I would like to say is people should not be punished to the extent where it traumatizes them, or belittles them, or makes the child psychologically timid or something like that. Shouldn't go to that extreme. But the school owners also want to maintain a certain thing. Is the same way like we were talking about journalism yesterday with Adam. They need to keep their jobs, or they have to bring in the money for the big companies who own the papers and so on and so forth. When I posed that question about Northeast being sidelined in the national news mainstream, so on and so forth. So, we don't make big news because we are small fry in the, big screen. But that also is something I question even now. I'm going off on a tangent. Is that all right? Rinchan. Oh,
Your connection is unstable, so I was not able to hear the last part of your.
yeah.
Well,
Maybe I'll let it go at that for now.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, I think I've
We have
started.
the other speakers respond to that, but I guess if there are no more opinions on that, I think we can
Rinchan,
move
just a
on
minute.
to the next question.
Rinchan,
Yes,
excuse me.
yes.
I'll just respond to that,
Okay.
because when we talk about communication, language is basically for communication. We tend to stress too much on the spoken part. Okay, spoken part is one part that is man to man, live interaction. But at the same time, we have to be careful about the written part, the listening part. Okay, so those things have to be there. But when we Mizo people, we tend to look English in such a way that people who can speak fluently is considered to be at the higher level, or say more intelligent, or say with a higher status, with a higher IQ. I tell you, I used to work with a gentleman who was Delhi public school educated, and he did his PhD from USA. But then I find that he cannot write even one paragraph correctly. Okay, his spoken is very good. So spoken English is good to some extent, for to a level. But at the same time, you have to be quite, solid in your writing skills also. Okay, so too much laying importance on the spoken part alone will also make you feel like feel very awkward in many situations. So there must be a balance. Just because, say, so for example, just because let's say some Santali labor speaks Mizo very fluently, but very brokenly, then there is no respect for that. So I think we have to, be able to differentiate. Now, in Mizoram, what we see is that people who speak most, like me, we consider them to be intelligent, but there are more intelligent people listening to others speaking. Okay, so the point I want to stretch here is that let's not too much concentrate on the spoken part. Without speaking, you cannot. It's very difficult to communicate, but that's not the most important thing in the whole communication system.
I will go on to the next question, which is in Mizo. So I will read it out. Sab chong thiam na chonga big. Sab chong thiam na atana ma kan son na tur chatak tak kan ngai thak tak te kha eng tiang ang takin nge kan han man chanang an implement ang atia khoilai atang hian nge bul kan chan theyang ti zo na ani. Puzo sang lian na khanin ron address masase ani kha angoi rei to.
Nia tuna zona kalta chi apo khatlem kan tivelo longa. Nia ka soi to ang khan kan song khop maya. Mizoram pon chuak miak lo te po hian sap tonga trong le in soi angani thil soi khan ti thei to em em ma chu tiang chu kan ne a chan chu tuna kan han soi spoken English kha English medium school ate kan war ta a thalu tuka amaro chu voi kha chu ka fa pat chala hian pen tui senin x an ron zia ka a chan kan zo chuan mizo tonga tong wang kha lo nia mizo tonga tong kha sual frem theina din huna khan an dinga ma se chu tiang taka kan tia wang chuan ma kan son chu ni loya a chin chu riat thiam har khop maya anh tin ngay khuya trang nghe kabul kan trang ti la ya kha tuna kan han soi le pi magi pon nimin lama te soi to a reading culture kan kal san na sa thil kan thriat du pon kan google a soi fiat na tlem te khan kan lung oya thriat na tak tak le a che pakaya thil han thriat na kha kan tla chama tin le kha chiar le kha bu chiar tak tak kha ziak thiam tur chuan mi zia chiar tam kha alo ngaya ni china soi tong khan tuna hian speaker dang te panan soyang khan reading culture khan kan let le a e khabu tha te kan chiara khatinga kan ti khangai tina phei chuan hei kindle mangte a pdf te pon le khabu tha tak tak te om to a le khabu lei ur u lo poin atla chop te te a kan mamo ang written test exam kan ti dona khatap engemaw te le interview kan ti dona kan an google hlek ang chia kan lung oi tamai ang chia kha kal sanin lu chil de hleka kan ti hi apoimo in ke kan ring de chu chu kan soi wa de hlek po khania tung atul kan tia kan uara spoken english mase china ka soin khan tung kan han thiam view kan fluent view khan kha ber khamo kan tia chu chuan nge ni in rin tok na min pek rual khan over confident min pe thei boka interview a haka soi to thova an lo kala an ron lu tir a an han ti vel dana chuan thing tak an ni lai khan kan an khal rei tial an mania khan nge ni thil tak tak khalo om lem lo a riat lo le nge ni a thiam lo awanga phat moi na thiam taka soi thei na tok vel a fluent te khatam tak chu kan om ta ni chu wang chuan kan soi thei le lai khan kan soi tu ra kha ke mane kan check hol tam kha ngai le maya chu mi tan chuan tuna ka suggest de ber chu reading culture kan let le khabu newspaper la niamo novel la niamo magazines la niamo share tama TV kan en pon YouTube la mani mo kan ti po in hei ka fa te upoi ka ti china thil hi chuin fria in thiam lu tu ma se in khiat le in thiam hi mak pu chi ni lo chu wang chona mak pu chi deuh hi thiam tum ro e in pe in thiam khiat pen kha thiam amara chu in zulu til le in te hi hetiang ang ani in caliber mang hian acha khiat tum ro te kan ti ve nok nok kha ting deuh kha ngai chon ka ria kalame
midang inan contribute le ma in hemizo na hi kan tel vele lokanga achan chu tuna kan eng khanin ain ang deu renga I kan ngai ton ti zau zok theinan kan share chuak vele lokanga a ve chu kan ve tlang veke ma se eng ti ang takin nge thil ti in pragmatic kan sun zomang entir na nimina pusha ta mala ang hindi coaching asoi ang deuh khan he kan trong she na le kanin lui so na lai takhi practical takin engtin nge kan ti bo thein in rin ti zo na nia ama mi nen khan in ang an dewa wang kan khai khom khalani ole midang hanso mila
puso sa sui kha gre ro lo ma amak pu chien thiam lo ti kha ni za ta ro walin e kan thian pa pa kharin fiam thuina tia thil chu fian ma amai ro chu athil khia thi no le chatling lo tia thil chu exam na chu lo chi li ra khia tia chu tiang chu aum thei don in ka khia chu aum thei don
kan
pon
khot
ne lo
langwal
chu
pakhat
ting
chu mo te te
mm
kan khot langwal pakhat chu metric a fail san khan zo ta do ming thang ite ina len kha ron chuak tlat lo van ni ti pateng khan ni ya kan khiat le kan thiam kha ron chuak lo thin
kan hel khit pakhat MCS chatlin lo chan po ka zir ka na tiang le wani chu an
zona ulu tu pati chu wang ni don chu englo kan seidula ya chu engting kan hon chanang ti lai kha ania har lai tak po ni ya tuna hian ka paper apo khan ka da aizo lai hian in khodang apo ni thowanga nau pang kan ti vele chong ho hi kan fate rualang te hi sap tong hin thiam ta le maya spoken English po an thiama tin thil dang po understanding po hi achakin ga ria tu nai thang thar le zual ho hi achan chu in zirna an nei tha ni mai ro chu chulai ka engeni apoi mo lai ta chu eng thil ngen riat hi ani ta ni trong ringot kha chu adik thei lawan ni china su eng khan engeni I mean speaking fluently in English not is not the measure for intelligence kan ti thein ka ria hi finna ani berchia lawa sap tronga nal ta ka trong ringot kha finna ani berchia lo ti lai hi chu suyu ranga ya chu ti rual chuan tun lai ka ve thar lai chu kan no pang te hi tronga hian an thlau don the haves and the have nots kha palang te hi chu kalau khop maya aizol no pang aizol lo po ka soi thawanga khodanga poninga sikul tha kan ti dong nge ni sikul thren khatalu which one andu talk in sub trong in open line and trong the to andu talk in an expressed ya talk in ngai thina hemi kan man ngai lo vocabulary engemo tu theng po ke pona kapman manglo te an lo manga an thiam to em mai ni trong chu thiam amai ro chu trong ringot kha ni talawani ti lai kha ka soi du lai chu nia an zona ka chalo mai theya the china pi magi soi lekha kan share claim ti te puzo sanga fiam thu te nimina urke te soi te po kha atil ta vekani ta chuan inge kan khria ta hi apui mo lai ni ka khria kan soi zong zong ne china an zona engting e kan man chanang ti ang chi hi chu harasa ke nin tilai lo soi vek the ni lo mai ro chu heti zatin kan ngai tla heti zatin kan suya YouTube pa te an ta heti ngi kan soi nga voile khata bultran hal tu po kha ati le thira Kozol Government College pulin chana thale maya heti ngi college zong zong in boi puila chon kan soi nga school in an soi nga nakina chon zirna war ku puang tu wai me po hian helam zong hian mala se chon kan ti chho zel nga heti yang ti kan tam huna hian ma kan so top na tan football a kan soi nge in khriat thiam dan tu chon ma cho omlai khan ro pui thelo ni anaw te rual tuaite te jerizu sa de mal so mate wanal ro te ron chuaka midang an no chuak zela tata football academy de tin kha chau kha mizoram khala indiaram khala al theilowa mizoram ma thei to pin trian te thanem ngai na zara bulkan han chana ti khan ati polan hantam ka chuna to pa chuanin pyramid ang deunia to pan tlenga tlem te man a base ka alina ai tuna chuna government khozol college an hara college dang har se school dang har se veng le khu har se yme har se hetiang kan ti chobanga ti chuan bul kan tran chu ni choma yang chu kati deu voile khata ta tak hian tia ti ding hal kha chu har sa hello me
Rinchan kan react kalau react velo ko ngamo
Ai.
ka soidu chu tuna azo na ka pragmatic approach ni ro ta khani in so ya trong poi mo je in so ya future ta na poi mo na mu na poi mo living standard increase na poi mo self confidence na poi mo an so ni chu engting nge kha confidence le kha nge ni kan ti chung kan thiam ti kha ka ru lo ma chu tuna azo na zo ne chir cho lai kan chung kha engata na man ngai tum ti kha poi mo ta ni entina English professor in ita English irti na kha di Asian mani nang do ni chu English in thiam khangai ta ni amaro chu vai ho sum do na dor na mo biel nu biel pa nei na mo level a kha chuanin Shakespeare English level a chungai don ta lo ni chu wang chun tu na se ho zong zong a khan dik deu mai chu engata nge kan man tur ti kha poi mo ta ni tu na chuan entina oil field a chuan oil field mo engineering English kha dang ta dei me ni tuna hen law kan lu le tan legal English lo dong le ta ni khata khan englai na kan kal do na engang thu gin nge trong dang Hindi mo English mo po ka thiam ngai ti ka ngai do ngai ta trong na remote khan in it might not pusang ta seng khan it might not take you anywhere mo it could be an embarrassment for you as well mo chu ni ta ka wang chuan in tuna khan ka sei an sei kha pusang te sei kha dika kan thil khiat kha kan chor thei tur ni it must be applied knowledge mo tuna chonin jirti tu pakhat aming ka soilo wanga abural hlaba chuan achan china han soya soitu te zongzong khanin milara niya sports atha zai thiama chuti khati antia masa jirti tu si kha ale khazirna ale azirtirna lama khan commendable achievement lo nei me lo mi kha lo nia chu wangin I go hati kan tholai kan driver kan sengde ula kan ya driver ania he is good in everything else but not in driving kan tichine driver ve si khat driving a thim ta lat lo meni chu mi ang chu kan tamlu tu kan chin kan seng khanin thil chu kan travel tu kan seila mo enge nei kapati dan ta ka kan vai jamira trong thailu tu thil ning tislu tu kha thil enge mo po seila hamara desh mein bina hi lo te ve theji ati kan ram ma chon ti ma sem man trong kai tu ra thiam khangai ta ni chuda tak chuan entina ka soi kan ni mina kema life story ka soi ka sab trong thiam kha ima mo china kha chu poliet kan ya ka mo china kha chu I just wanted to speak in English mo kami trong tu chuan tuna trong zirna apps ta atama kan seng khan 1978 a poliet kan ni khan apps alo mi lawa dar thalang kan ya dar thalang ma ka trong me ni chu wang khala ka soi du lai ta ka chu min andu tak ani chuan engata nge an mo ti khan thria tangai mo chu wangin ni mina pung ka example ka soya kanam pui nula Mizoram thingtlang khon nula Bangalore ron chukweya chunga lo thiam duwa thathum chunga thiam hal mai khalam panga kha ka soi fo chu kan thil du re hi du satli ni lovin kan du thang hum ngai ta ni we must be very passionate about your dream mo not just daydreaming you have to be very passionate tuna azo tu nu khanin lo thre sela ka du chu let her set her dream first mo where is the dream is it towards Champai or is it towards Longklai or is it towards Bombay a dream a direction of na lai tak a location ka khre chuan she will not go ka say fortina if your dream is to go to Shillong you cannot go towards Lunglei side ikal thiang lo phrim chu wangin akal dana kha amin sakha a tools a facilities ne kha asang mi the sang lo mai the but if you're going to the direction of your dream then there is no failing okay ka say fortina Mizoram hian magdo mai chu thereng kate he thereng chu an shramai shram por thin ni Mizo te thereng mo kan ti thin deu ni na langa kan shram kan ti kan por zo si lo ni chu wangin ni na dikta ka kan destination kan dream om tur chuan you have to be very passionate about your dream and you have the right to dream the best dream in the world the sweetest more the greatest dream in the world tika kai instill dua nimina ko sei to Mizo kan te big low American te Japanese time kan neb low. Only thing is that your mindset. In your mind, you have to tell yourself every morning, yes, God loves me. I believe in God who believes in me. Okay. Kami zonga kan kal khachuan tuna ronzo tu po khan seng khan trong khaeng tange adu. Sum do na ni chuan sum do na chong kidna he mo engen say A2 ti ngo pa ti ati shap the ya mo vai trong A2 ti ngo pa say ve chak the ni chu wangin a high level a khangai lo mai the ya chu wangin kan dream a khashela tarang chuan enge kam mo te khashela tuna kan say put zo sang te na seng khanin kan mak ti pung lo chi kan thil konga min pui lo chi khan kan keng lo ve ka say fo trina kan cousin fa nu ron leng man ne bread do MA English ani ve thowa enge iti du ka te UPSC exam vel te ka du ve atia ngai zong in yem ka te o nei ve de wa ne chu ti ngai zong nen UPSC lam pang se ngai am ka te se ngai lo ti chu wa exam kina ngai zong in le mo ngai zong ka I influence the lo ne chuan UPSC exam sat clean I du wangin UPSC exams lamba tui chau lo chunga zong du ri su ka te anui ve mo du wangin Indian crab policy and saying at sang to kan import la meni chu vain in support to ngai ta tak chuan kan sei du lai tak la bu ko chu inge I dream I lot na tu tang khan inge imamoti kha you have to identify no what are your problems what are your opportunities what are the facilities available with you Sathia ma'am kha lo interject vele lo kan chu
An pot zat le lo kanga achan chu he khamia khanin kha zona chunzom zel na ang deuh kha he kan participants te hi an thanem hin ngai lu tuka kami a strategy engtin nge kan let li ang ti ang trong bi ka khan mason the na khan reading culture kan soina sa a chon reading culture a engtin nge kan let li ang ti zo na hi aron om le a chuan kan khovel hun ton le din mun en hian reading culture a let le thut thei ani mailbox si lawa kan nam kal phung le nunzia culture khoi thil ni in alanga kan social norms le values hian thui takin kongro asu in sheve em chuti ni se tu tinge mimal emo pol angin mala theyang ti zon hi khami tu na kan discuss mek chunzom na zel akhanin an ron la zot le a chuwangin kan zinga hanin pi joy po aron professor joy po om to a video on lawa audio ero chu ona I kan trong hi a share thei vek karinga ani pon ngai dan tam takanei in karinga kan som ve bukanga tuna ka zona han share thar le akha I ron address tu kan om chanin tuna hun hong le lokila
kan se le lok na khlai ta kha pui mo lai chu kan thalai te hian until lak and lak serious angai reading culture kan ti kha social media poi reading culture thonia maro chu Facebook mo WhatsApp mo kan share don hian mani pa pakhatin mirhil chu kolachi ba kan kalin pur he thil ijek thui theilu to ka ije thuilu to ka bang kan share pe thin lawa Mizo ji nga chon read more ti thleng che hi zia turania ti chumi chu an share pe chin to kan ti ke chu ka sei chu Asia lam pangpo ka pe a cherte chu lo pe ve ula ka ti chu wangai tu na joinin practically they have all the literature all the information available in their handset mase handset ka the mem nge ti vel me mang lovin tu na po ka sei fo thina admission tung tang ta mi ron zo thu ta o google nei lo google kan ti vela ka ti mo film en nan ti vel khan kan ma chu wangai du na thalai te hian he ta lek bu cha pui le ya chera thua ti ponga chung lo mu chung pon information lak nem thelu tu tin na china kan sei jok pu sang ten ron se kha dik de mai chu enga moni an threve nuala in de pa zu am luam pelon chan poi angai nom china anti tu na hian lok an practice ve hian ka hria chota ka chu kan new breed lo a no pang ho no pang te ho hi an fast le tu ma se han sei pui la an in de pa ne mi lo chumi om je chu azirnak tur a material kha it's there in your handset only thing is that how you use your handset is very important chu wangin tu na zo tu pokhana khet tu chu pi margredi le khabu pi margredi cherang chi te puzo sang te keni cherang chi ho le khabu thapi pui kha google no wikipedia anti em này tầm lụt tục mà là chú vàng anh bây một lại rồi chú em bị hardbound nanti hard pages kher kha a tool chung lo wa kan thil chira khan tui halin kan cher tur ne mo angai nom kan ti zong zo kan ne na a hepa tu jek thu em de kan ti ka soi fo thin anti nan putte ten thu sei do nan ti chon an mi an phur putte ten a soi thadon nin an fetchin of vangania pu khet na soi ve do an ti chon phur lo mai thei ma se makdewin thil thada ko lo soi ve thei preconceived idea kan lo nei lo ka ajiak tu milina mo a male milina mo kan lo in khar khachuan we are missing lot of information we are missing lot of progressive steps mo chu wangin neutral reading kan mo a mizo wa chon ka sei fo thina thu soi thiam te kan ngai sang thu soi thiam mai ngai tha thiam ni poi mo zo jiak thiam te po kan ngai sang ma se jiak mi je cher thiam ni ngai khlai ta ka kan khlai ta ka jir du chu be neutral don't have any preconceived idea amel mel chade upo intelligent de olom the chu amel na lo tui lo ngot lo tu a toy te po ho du do bom ve thawa thui de upon om jene de win ngai must be Solomon's mind mo ka om ve the ni ti ka sei du a chu wangen chalai te an van nei bon tok tu na chuan tu ma chun le khabu kon le ki pon competitive success review de ka le ve thina ka poisa tamber hi magazine le nang ka hong thin scholarship kala mo kapat min thon pon tu na chun eng ma le ngai no everything is there chu wangin until chirzo ka khan an approach a khan a reading an ni e mu chunga chere bo khup chunga chere poi mo lo an intensity to know the knowledge more to extract from that piece of information ka apoi mo chu wangin ka kan in rol level le lo ni chu kolom
Professor Margaret ma'am can continue, I think.
Puzo sang khan la soi ma sadu lo ni mi chin khan in an ti da u ka
tin ngi tuna pu khia da soi kha kan soi tum deu ni wang khan ngoi po kha ka poi ti lo nia reading culture han ti khan le kha bu a pui le ri mal chunga da han chiar khara kha ani lova amora chu tuna soi ang tho khan read more ti thleng chia bak chiar pe lo haka kan ni chuan nge ni kan knowledge accumulation kha atlem don lutuk ti kha chiang rang maya ka wang khan tui thamin chiar turani tuna ni china kan stoi khan kha le khabu author han anglote tf ut te Norman Lewis te khang te po online in on vek kindle pozon thai vek ani digital kha kan nu swati na ni chuang lo amara chu kan chiar tura khan nge ni kan ta na changkai tu le changkai thamin chiarila tikha kan soi du chu ni maya thank you
okay can I start
yeah please
Yes ma'am, sure.
okay ama saberin hey job call ni te vanlal thanaren thlei john lal ruat kima te hi I really want to say I really appreciate their questions because they have got into the crux of what they want and I think this is so important hey takinya kan mi so thalai te an felna until ronzo here practical because they want us to tell them something practical more hemi sap trong hi kan man du na azir po anyanga tu na khan spoken le written te poi mo na te chu kan soya kan soi de uchar charangar rangdawin achan chu ka electric ya amu mal lawa etiran mizo nu China king la ya an han sum donga an mani o ka ngai kan chung te thian te an kal hian an ni bak pakathil hi mi hian sila ngai thak hi nuam katia ka kal ve ngai silo tin nge moin han dor ve ri ngot thin le hello tin chan nin she thayem
Yes ma'am, I can hear you.
yeah eng tin nge moin han ti ri ngot ve thin le nang ni hi trong in Chinese in thiam mi te hi kan alo ngai lo reng te eng tin nge ti ka tia calculator hi hu mi la tok cha kan du hi tian kan han thanga kan han dor kaya ador nei tu la in sap trong thiam bok lo ke ni la in sap trong kan thiam si lo Chinese kan thiam lo mizo an she si lo ti khana man kha calculator kan tian mi an han en tira ke nin kan han en a chuan kan du dan kan don ang khati kan han chule chak ti kan in en tira ato pa kan in dor mai nian tia To me, it's rather humorous, but I found it so practical. That was for ladies who went to China. Kan Mizo may te enterprising zia fel zia hikasoi pa po aniang. Andu thalin an han bazar thaya chung kwa zom thayin anron hoa lep nain anthilan zwat thayani. Now, English itu na po spoken here kan soya kan te spoken ka kan bultan na apoy mo na kan soy ka ani pakata apoy mo siya te kachu kan soy tam to soy thui lutu po ngai talo se spoken na hian mo hemi eng tin nge kan ti ang formal taka trong ni lem lawa trong pa ngai te friendly trianin kom na te le friendly exchange le casual taka kanin biak na te le thil kan soi na po bilingualism te lo lenga tin code switching du to ka code switching te lo lenga khatiang ang khan kanin sia thiam tla na wangin tin kan trong te po kha amoi em mangai lo wa pronunciation po moi em mangai lo communication kha kan impactful kha chuan na tok kan ti ni so na maro chu written hi alo dang lamani entinan kaini university literature kan zirtira ma se kaini tan mai hi ni lo eng subject la po tu na po hian IT institutions song te hetiang engineering college le lo MZD wa te ponia mun dang a ponia English hi an component poi mo de ne tun ma chon an nei lo ma se now they are realizing that without the English component and products te how hi kovela an wat chwa nu in kami language competency khan nei lo chuan an king bai ve thawani eng anga degree thapo nei se eng anga law thapo nei tu mi se chuang chuan ne kai ni apo ti khan English component an nei a communication skills ten was zirtira country an ten ti khan kan in ti chawka tu ma tang khan class kan bala ve thin ani marks te tek ve thawani kaka pakhat lenia up the utility of the language kakang khachu thuida so ngai ma se khanga kan na tok meya written shimi not only for the teacher of English amaro cho hei sikul ran tu te entinan kan zinga po puzo sanga omta tin ngai thatu te zinga pon ni thei tin nu le pa te po kanom thei of future mothers and fathers also practical taka kan ti thei chu entinan katia practical lai kha kan soyanga school level la chuan a practical na lai chu entinan ke po English hi engwangin nge kha competent ve thokha taka in shiat mian lo zirti dan kha tha em kan zir na sikul kha thil fancy ani lo re reng sikul man to ban phak lo ang chin ni lo very very normal school nu le pa te an nei nung lawa kan van ne kan zukulu re ni me ani ama ro chu tun thleng hian ka ngai to le thian sikul hi ran ta ila emo tu le fa te hi ka tu te tan po hian ka zirtir don ani chuan hemi method hi ka mangang khatia chu chu hei hian ya reading skills kha alo poimo a reader radiant reader kan neya grade chan he ta pol nia matang in khan primary middle school high school primary le middle school a big takin hei hi min shoot sakani chu reading kha pakhatte ten kan in din choka paragraph khate mo paragraph ni emo hi kan chiar ngai khata khan zirti twin kan pronunciation min correct na lai tur te mo enge mo kha homework ka po kan lo in zirthina wangin chu spoken oral kha antel potani hei hemi a practical min zot tu te hian kha lo share se and you can actually do it with your children you can actually do it in the school and also at home with your children come here reading a kha chuanin an read ta thui tak po kan share chong lo chuan kan in din choka okay chuan tha em pakhat le ka ril ruwa om chu subject dang kan zir lampo ni lo spelling le dictation hi alo poimo em ani spelling le dictation and hey hi it sounds so mundane hetia kan ti hian it sounds so mundane and ordinary ma se a practical shedu tan chon hey hi ka soi cha kani spelling le dictation kha mian han ti le ta thina ni le had thu har sadeu te khamin underline ti ra khang te kha spelling te kha kan ziranga ya chuanin in a homework ka chuanin khami khan sentence kan siam turani simple sentence or compound sentence ma se subtong karon improve tani heta reading kha kan mitin thil kan zuk read awang khan eng level po kan ni se kan mitin kan lo chiar tam wang khan sentence construction te kha zoi in ti khan kan lo ti thau chau ben ni ti chuan dictation hi zirtir tu in le khabu min khartir ve ka dictation bu kan neya an soita clear takin fia takin zirtir tu atronga ti khanin a dictate kha kan ziak thlathin ani khang te khan correct le pe ve ka khata khan enge kan spelling te kan punctuation te kan handwriting te an test vek na khan ni tani hei hi tunlai ani chu patori tai da lom po min ti ani mai thei this is a sure way of guiding our students and our children from a young age, from, in fact, I would say, from the primary stage. Spelling, dictation, reading. Kaka, an manitan sawa read sak nilaukan, they have to learn to read. Tikan kan share sawa, and in the process, we got to learn, kami kan share wangkan, we got to learn so many stories and characters, names, and things like that. So anin hemi ayan ka soile du chu sikula kanin librarian nature ni tu na han Mizoram sikula yan all these fancy schools and fee sang an library te hi class ka chak thina ni library tak hi an nayem an lo collect to sikul kum som ni ding to te hi an library te hi eng anga hausa nge ni dictionary te hi eng sat nge an chop no pangtan ti te hi en a chak khop mai achan chu college inspection kan kalpan na kan thola in college te po hi unapologetic thei lu tu kan hi achan chu UGC norms a khan librarian nei renga nga ya achang chuan in college then khat te hian an nei manglawa anei te hian in thataka maintain le en kolte an nei a khatiang ang khanin library poimo se kha kasoi dua chu engwangin mo library hi showpiece ani lawa mo tin dictionary kasoi sau te kha showpiece ani lo middle school kan lu lai tang tau han dictionary hi chu compulsory nei ve ka nga ya ni lo chon classroom a common facility na om dictionary ke uthia manga ya ni en tuna chon google kan nei to meanings en kim hi a en vek thai to all samte in amaro chu kan ti le zel te am a meaning pialam kha kan la chia thai zel em sentence sam hang dan te adjective ani na mon noun anga man dan te khang song le a pronunciation a phonetic a pronunciation the dictionary a hian chuang pe ka Oxford ani mo Cambridge ani mo Webster ani mo khang kha dictionary tha hian an nei ta fik ani chuan chan dictionary hi MA thenga ka kan nau te po dictionary engangai nei an kan tia an ka so dia ta dictionary hi in study table a in Bible ani tin shaim Bible hi ngai poi moro ma se khami da ta kha chonin in dictionary kha in Bible ani ka ti thin chu wangin mo kan ti chuan words hi kan han ke wa dictionary a hian pencil tick te hi han pe nge la kan thei hil ngai lo kha word meaning kha chuan i vocabulary i thu thiam kha English thiam kha a house tel thin ani amak lu tu ka sin spelling te dictionary hi mang maro phek hi han le khabu hi han khoi nge la han ke wi la pencil hian han underline nge la kan word zuk mu akha a spelling i thei hil to ngai lo nga a meaning poi thei hil to ngai lo ang hey in lama po fa te kan nei dia kan u chu nge meaning kha ti hi an sing a man lai tang to in dictionary ke ro ti kha ka answer tur ka chana tur ni ti hian shepe ka kanu san dictionary ke ro min ti don hian han ti ngal thina a chang chan ka sil thawa ma se dictionary kha ke ro atia a chang chu dictionary ke hian om sia hi an nei thuil tu ka chu wang nei chu nia tu na chan old fashioned I have no time for dictionary in ti chan Google kha oma ma se Google po kha share chot pe ula khatiang angzel khan apoi moni chan library ka soi kha hey sikula te po library kha kan nei thina khang lai te chan ni Kindle te om lo this that but voi ni po hian in the love of books, the feel of books hi alo poi mo lu tu ka le khabu hi han nim velila han ko ila han khoila adangani can respect ani acknowledge within that book. Until when I was a young schoolgirl, hey, enit blighten te hi kansiar zaube ka kansiar chaka kanin ho choka ikol reibi kantia kanin chu lek trina khatiang ang chia kanin chalet school girls chung chang te mo high school kan lu china khan ke chu konan hey konan the conqueror mo konan the barbarian ti vel tun hua fi ma ron lar hey Arnold Schwarzenegger channa te hi school no pang kan hi lai khan high school akhan konana novels athon thu te hi ke chu ka chiar chok vek to ni I used to love it, and a koma khanin a drawing te kha a artist khan an thiam sia konana te hi khang lai khan kan mel shet to ni engwangin mo ti chuanin ka fina ka felwang ni ro khan library khan min provide ani khatiang ang deuh hlek kha alo ni ta chuwang chuanin school library ti te dictionary ti te hi aman lai lo I man lai ti long u kha khan yan ni china reading culture ti kha reading culture hi soine reng lo tur alo poi mo sia chu thon thui chiar wangin reading culture I lut le ani shan lowa reading culture ti chuanin dictionary zuk di pe te mo like that, you know, and India Today or any magazine, en pay chuan ti ka masetuna chuanin media hian a om vectors phone a hian so in van ne yan ni tuna pay chuan sum senga lei kha ngai lowa mase chiar pay tur pushete so yang de khan chiar bel tur om thleng ang bak kha kan chiar pay lowani kha chuan khang po kha kan smartphone a po eng angin nei mai la kan chiar tampe don lo ni kha kha lo ni ta chuan chuanin reading spelling dictation chuanin khang kha uluk taka kan fa te kan zirtir chuan in the process khan sap trong hi athiam lo thei lo ani chuan spelling te hi kan thiam lo thei lo wa punctuation te hi kan thiam lo thei lo wa khatiang ang kha ani ta ni chu kan soi deuh du a amaro chu kha apoi mo wangin reading culture kan ti han a practical kamin ron so wangin khami lai kha kan soi ani chu tin hei tun lai private schools tam takim aizo la hian anin ti mu ti tun hu hian kalau se thara no pangte te po an interview te hian an zirtir tu ten an sap trong zirtir dan hi phonetics and warta social natur akan nei lo phonetics a pronunciation akha nal a ophoya you know phonetics ang songa te tanga an zirtir ta hemi hian ni nga chuan le heng future generation ho thei hi chu nakina chuanin sap trong hi an trong na lu tu nga kan se thiam lawang ti po kha a lawm zek lek zok ani an sap trong hi chu ti khop chuanin trong te hi an trong na la amaro chu hei hi thil thani because it is reflective of the school and the teachers who work so hard to teach them proper English amaro chu atop na chon ka soi du chu pronunciation te trong nal te ophoi nal te hi chu poimo hle ma se her ni chin kan soi khan mak hi apulem lawa adik taka zia thiam adik taka chiar thiam adik taka pronounce thiam kha zirna konga le for formal usage a chon a poimo a tonga ero chon spoken a chon we can be more casual and kan pronunciation for moi berlo ma se apoi lobe ti la ya kha kan soi du ni chu kalome
ole hei zona hi aron lut zel maya tin achinin an ngai dan te an ron post boka headlaya pakhat job ibokina aron zona ron da kan lo chia thwa le lo kanga tin hemi jungcha nga hi chuanin kan speakers te khanin an soi chiang to bia chuang ka sha a helaya kan soi hi angai thla le she tu chu tlem te kan ni si a chalai te an van nei to ma se an van nei zia po chu tunge shil fi ang tunge chalai te hne na chuan an ngai dan le thlir dan thlak turin hma la ta ang ti lai te kha ania ka zo na khi ti na ron da ka in thla shung veo na amai ro chu hemi hi kan chang ve zo yanga I hei ke mani khozol college po in kan han organize chu chu atran na pakhat ni in ka sha a hemi chung changa chuan tin mimal ang cheu hian ti tur kan nei lo mo hi kan ti china I tuna azot tu nge po hian ina ti thei chu tuna kan speaker te ina an thu soi tam tak hi YouTube pa tuna live ania YouTube pa omreng dona I kan chalai tam tak hianin le no pangcheng pon chung kwa ang pon YouTube kan en na sa a hetiang ang tuna YouTube pa om tur te po hi angai thatu zu ma chang angai thatu kan ni chuanin tikhan midang hne na khana link kan pe a kan pe chhong theyanga kan thlir tir ve theya kan speaker te na an soi tam tak hi helaya mitlem te in ngai thama ila I YouTube pa changin ala en thei zelani ti atang ringot po khanin chalai tam zok te ano pang zok te amam ho tak tak te khan tikhan an langai thazel thei dona chu chu min lo shat sakse chu wang chuan thilro puideu ti kherangai lawa miro puideu kan mamo kher lawa amai ro chu ke ma ni hi kan poimo a khada tang khanin ma la tran chewila ti kha in thlashung tak chungin kan ron soi ve zoaya chuan dang hi chat box kan en in public azo thil zia kha oma mai ro chu private a heta I min ron zot hi an oma wangin kan zot le lo kanga Professor Joy po kha kan kyanga oma wangyanin I would like to contribute some of her perspective as well chuan hemi tuna chuanin nichina ron lut to ania hei hi kan lo share chuak le lo kange please share your take on raising a Mizo Tsunkwa among a spoken English society, where a Mizo child will not feel a fish out of water among our Mizo society and other society at par. Ultimately, in every sphere and activities of social life, coming from a child, Kanram Apyang, but raised outside Kanram, Ania Azot Tuahi Aniyang. How can we encourage more of reading culture? Rahi chu azona pani na ni le zok ta tuna chuan tuna ka zo azona chu Mizoram apiang amai ro chu Mizoram pona changa seilia na nita chu wang chuanin eng angin nge Mizo chung kwa concept hi spoken English society hianin I kan rei sangti hi azona anita how do we encourage a Mizo child to not feel a fish out of water among our Mizo society and other society at party kha azona chu ni Professor Joy is also with us, so maybe I can invite her first to answer the question.
Okay. Hi, I'm sorry for not tuning in earlier. I had a lot of work to do and I sort of forgot about the thing, so I apologize for that. Until Soika, hello. Since I tuned in late, I don't know what has been said, so I may be repeating things that other people have said. But I mean, concerning the question that was just posed, I think, hey, Delhi anga te po hian han entaila kan Delhi Mizo in coma te han entaila, if you look at it, some hey mixed to me yang mo no pang te hian tama Sunday school ten on in coma and nu te ho hi very commendable because they all bring their children to Sunday school, the Delhi Mizo Income Sunday School. And so that's a very interesting way in which one can incorporate, the idea of Mizo within a society. Kihi Vairama Piang, Vairama Salian, Kanya Mizorama Hian Kum Khat Po hi as 1 year Hian Kala Umloa. Zu Wang Zuan, hey, Mizo Zinga in Kashung, de flick he kalonichina, the mayang mo. So Mase Til Pakat Kashiat zu Tel Swan to Mayan Minlo Danglo, Tika Kashatsianga mo. So in Kashung, there were Pon Lamatranga and Enkazuan. It's very intimidating. Mo Mizo society at Telka. ma se hantel to pila tu ma hian entin ma hian mizo hi chu kong thang ka jon kan lo open le em si he vai nei lo tur chu ti khati kan lo an lo timma ila mi an lo tel hi chuan tu mai nen tin ma an lo soi lo an lo welcome coming khopa tu wang chon I think pon lama mun nga fa te lo nei te po ni ma seng I mani le mani kha kan ki mizo kan ni ti kan in shia ta le mizo dang ne na in mix kan du chuan ran tel to pa chuan mizo chuan atlang pui thuin I haven't seen or heard of anyone being rejected because they are different more. So once and I don't know whether that answers the question, but that is something that I would like to state. Then with regard to Professor Margaret T. Soy Lampang Katlemin Soy Kadua Tutu, which is that with regard to English, Mokatianu he software recruiter hinya software engineer computer software engineer te saprama thon tura khatyang recruiter hinya ani po hian athil pakhat soi chu India tranga mi recruit hi an ahar to lutu katini awang chu saptrong hi an lo thiam tok lawa atia. So for instance we are hitting the bottom of the barrel atia recruitment hi har to lutu kaniti awang chu people are not good in English chu wangson at one level we have to understand that hey pushiyata soyang de khan level sang omani mo attend to silchar kal turte silchara enge marketing ti turte kachon khata a level khachuin obviously we don't need a high level of English, but on the other hand when we say culture more reading culture a more English speaking culture ni chuan kan soidan jang culture ni chun mimal ni talawani anol pui kha anita chuan jang khami chunga khan entingek khami culture kha kan develop ang ti kha apui mo tani so pushya tate kha chu if you think he's an exceptional person more he's a very exceptional person he learned English he was very interested in English and he was very fortunate a very intelligent person very fortunate to be able to overcome the circumstances that he had to be able I think therefore not everybody is like him more not everybody is like him so what is needed in that so therefore because a culture it's not just for exceptional people but a culture can produce some Mizoram and for that what was said earlier educational system can education now for instance JNU we have been teaching here for 20 years or so and on the whole there has been a general decline in the education in the language standards of the students more why po Mizo po everywhere I mean not just from Mizoram by Hozinga po educational English language skills allow within the last 20-25 years or so kema teaching experience at Rangyan. So secondly, Mizoram atanga local tehi students they can learn nevea essay writing. Very few people can write good essays. More Kini JNU angate and postgraduate universities and so on. Most of our evaluation is on the basis of essays. More multiple choice questions essays and essays Mizo trongpunzia hi har kantini essay has to have an introduction it has to have an argument it has to be well read well punctuated and ziadan essay po hi zia kyang hi kan lo onlo kan student pakhat ko ka zo china essay hi Mizoram hian sikula hian in ziak ngai lo mi te ziak ngai ten de we know like for instance fekam twin the cow ziak ro kan tia tikhan pre by hearted essays tekha mo mi lo zia sa tekha kan eng lo ta so one essays ya po kan so one at another level, more higher education level, more academic level, kan han ngai to chuan sap trong a hian improve angai na salut to ka khang zong zong ka chu I englo enge what do you call it educational level a hian alo poimo em ni. Then the second thing also is kan ke mani enge what do you call it ke mani enge area ni lo mai the kan soi tur area tuna tak hian ma se chung kwa hi lo poimo khop mai chung kwa enge le khazir chu I mean sorry le khabutsiar chung kwa hi tuna amak ka ti chu he namdang vai ho zinga po nam sang kan lo zirtira amak ka ti chu academics na hi chuan Bengali ho hi an lo fal khop me academics na chuan hey sap thung thiam vak lo po hi amo rural college atanga local po hi an man klatani until chiar kha engi author in engi argument siam kini hey academics lampang kan soi ni chu more higher level de utek kan soi ni chu engi author hi hele khabu hian engi soyatum pe lo zot taila tam student tam tak chuan upon lang chuan siam an soi thei more in the sense suppose you say that enge history of the Stuart Kings te lo ti taila it's about the history of Stuart Kings the vel chau khan upon lang chau khan min lo respond engi a argument ni mo engi counter argument ni theyang ti khate kha chu I ahar tu ma se Bengali ho hian anman zung mai ni ka kamo amak katia ke pon namdang te ain ka ti ni chu engi kan soi akhan tu kami culture reading culture Bengali ho hian a lo into ne khopa chu wangchun a culture a pla pui thuin hey society hian en tinge kami culture kha kan breed ang kan ti kangai ta chu wangchun Mizo tungo mo sap tungo mo reading culture hi midang pon an lo sei to kha chu mi hian an soi chu nu le pa te le khachiar an lo tuan pa te po hian le khachiar habit hi an develop karan an te ta ni tu wang chan nu le pa tang khan kha lo poi mo khopa reading as khachian te pa ne te po hi as a family hian dar kar khatte an thu khoma an mani du khan lo chiar da ni no pang ka chan no pang de le khabu ti te amo upar chan tu chan as a family te kan thu khoma le khabu te hi rule to anymore. Mizo, actually, I don't mind whether it is in Mizo or in English. Mati reading culture, kha low develop. So once on Mizo zing at the puyan no pangtante le khabu te here. Mizo trong te pon a true look to more. Besides just our textbooks that we have, Mizo trong te hian no stories te hi siam theila. Small short stories te siam thela kha kami reading culture shrim hi develop angai ni tu lai no pang chu we all know ke ni te po hi kan ni lek to attention span hi toy lu to ka chu wang chang kha chunga tinge kan ti chuan all our news is this micro news mo niminan sei to ang khan tu wang chang something much longer short stories short essays ho hi chung kwa atanga chiar tran hi a true tony such a contribution it is. I mean, I went all over, I spoke about different things. I apologize for that, but I thought I'll just contribute that little bit. Thank you.
So much for contributing your perspective. Since we do not have too much time left, I will not address all the messages and the questions that is coming in through the chat box, but this one question and opinion has been there for quite a long time. So it's a message I received privately. The rest of the questions and messages, I think all of us can see. We can enjoy the privilege of reading that ourselves. I will just address this and maybe ask our speakers who are still here with us has lost his power supply in his locality, so therefore he's not joining us at the moment. So is Puzo Sangliana. Connectivity problem. So to continue, I will just read this out, a message from Anthony Lelchuan Moya. I would ask all the three speakers to address on this. However, maybe you can give a very short and crisp answer to it if possible, because we're running out of time. English has become so deeply entrenched that our psyche is conditioned to believe that, within quote, to excel in sport or any other disciplines, English has become indispensable. Indispensable. Not to discount the privilege of being multilingual, I think not narrow down language into its utilitarian value, a mere tool of communication. So leaving aside the instrumentality of English language, do you think English pose an epistemic violence on the minorities or tribal epistemology? Any one of you can take the privilege of speaking first. Professor Margaret, would you like to address the question first?
I think I touched on this on the first day very briefly, since due to paucity of time, one couldn't really go into much detail. But you see, for now, whether we like it or not, no matter how we consider it or what our attitude is, English is important because it is a global language. It's not English from England anymore, not belonging to the English nation per se. It is a global language. And unless such time that another language will overtake it and become a global language, for now we have to settle with English language. And I think in that sense, India as a nation is fortunate, because whatever we may say about the British colonizers who came and then left, uh, whatever we may think or say about that, we have to know that they left us this legacy of language which has stood us in good stead today. It is said that in the Northeast also, we speak better English. Well, it's because of the Christian missionaries. This is the answer that everyone gives, and I tend to agree also. This is important. So, whether it does violence, no, it doesn't do violence to, our epistemology or our way of those kind of things, whether it's with the tribals or the downtrodden. In fact, it has been English which has helped to uplift these minorities, as we say, the tribal. After all, I am a tribal, you are a tribal. What has English done for me? Where has it brought me? So, I know we are talking about the remote outbacks, maybe in Orissa or somewhere, where tribals we feel may not have that access. But these are things that is why schools are being opened, or they are having the same kind of needs like us, where they have to be facilitated, facilitated with regard to how to improve and enrich their language skills. It is happening all over. And, people who feel they are responsible or who have gone into that kind of a service, whether they are missionaries or school owners or whatever, I think they're doing what they can. But in the really remote places, as I saw one of the questions where you're a pastor, maybe this is felt even more strongly. But the thing is, although we say the world is flat, but maybe in some areas it's not flat. But with regard to English, as long as it's a global language, it's there. Some of us may have to struggle harder to have access to it. Some of us need not even struggle that hard to have access to it, but it remains a fact. So I think that is, a very simple, brief way in which I can answer.
I think I have touched upon that in my paper today, because I've written it down. I mean, down like this. I will read it again if you may allow me. Sport extends beyond the pitch. Coaching, management, sport reporting have become integral in the overall development of sport. And in order to continue this progress, a sufficient command of language is just important as talent on the field. Because a sportsman's career do not end after his retirement. If you want to prolong his career, there are lots of opportunity in the broadcasting, sports reporting, management. For that, you need to have at least a basic knowledge, a working knowledge of English. With that, you can go up to the highest level. I mean, for example, I have mentioned about Baichung Bhuti, MC Mary Kom, Sunil Chetri, and all the retired cricketers. If our players, our Mizo athlete, had the same command over the English language as these are the sports person, the career is still wide open. But if they don't have that, I mean, language knowledge, their career ends as soon as they hang their boot. I mean, that's my take from the sportsman perspective. I mean, if you may allow me, this will be the last thing which, I mean, I want to contribute. I want to interact on what Professor Maggie had mentioned, the three things. Mizo Train kan mga library, dictionary, reading. Kalai ka apoy mo kati vekop maya. Kaya til share tayo malo, midang da til share tura, fuit train ka ne ka tayo mafaklawa. Mayroon siya, kan apoy mo siya, kan college and library name. Kan school and library name. School uniform na to college building the po at to bus the po kan ni to library kan ni try. Tilaya hi ani. Kung mo do dilo sa tizong kan so kan 0 to te lo po atam to government colleges at the page 1. Mase library kan ni try. Chuchuni dictionary asaya kha adike me mani. Kan ni manglo kan zero line na nangai sa do na kina. Kalay po claim kasi kan ni lawang ti ro. Reading chu kan say na sa to kasi to lo nga. Chu de kan say do chu bul tran na ni government causal college na heting bulan tran hi a try me mani. Intinge Mizo me pui nol pui kan tril teng thalai te nan trasi lawat nge ni participants an tam si lawan te kan check vela som ni chung kan reng ani. Ngai thadu soi chong le du som ni atam tok ka te ge chuan som po ni se up ga ti shim shima sta YouTube ma on record in on dona en le thei turin heng te chu wanal sai lo wa zai ang ani lo mi sang sang nan en don lawa amero chu atui mi ten an ti chuan an pudar zel dona chu wan chuan in in a 40 athon don lawani athon lo mai de lawin soi chon zem cha ko min ka ria na kina po platform kan ni na mun ta po chuan e atom na ta na kan sei du chu ni china Professor Joy on soi ka tra ka tia she mentioned that she did not live in Mizoram on a stretch for 1 year kha chuti chung chuan Mizo tong ka friend ta kina tong kha thale in ka ria kan sei tum lai tak chu engtinge Mizo society kan in adopt engtinge nge ni Mizo speaking society si lo hian ti lai kha thil pakhat ka khia ti kan sei du interesting interview in karinga kan chung nai te ania California nom thina ni USA California nom thina chuan lekha zirin ania uta an pa be kha nge ni PhD atia research di na oma chuta chuan an chung kwa chuan dan an ne ni khuta online California chuan Mizo nom manglo ani kumi Maryland DC le kulama chuan an tama California chuan Mizo nom manglawa nu ber khan da na chuan USA nom lai khan kan in chunga big ati an in chunga big sap tong chu punishment ani tani in chunga chu ani pona chuan Mizo tong ngai daw lo sap ve kan ni in chunga chuan Mizo tong chu punishment ati an fa te kha Mizo tong an tong thei lo hlawa wang khan Mizo tong pal chu chuan no tur thleng sil tu da salang no fai tur khan ni tani an lo tong pal le thina an them ta thina ni ati chan chu in zir se du wang ni chu mi de chu Mizoram an lo kir to har sawak lo in Mizo society an in adopt theya chuti rwal chan saprong an thiam lam kha chu soi ngai lo saprong a sei lian ania kha atha ve riawin ka hria kan share chak de hleka chuan seng khanin e ka tu soi tom na ni to dona he in bultan na hi in Mizo society a chuan in thil poimo takani in ka hria hedi taka in thane mai na hian ra tha achu anga e midang pon anti zel in ka beisia e seng khanin hemi enge ni COVID alenga hri alenga kan ti te heti zong hian atha zong hian thili a her chuak ve zel ani chan na lam ringot a rom lam ringot thim lam ringot kan en chuanin hri lenga eng ma ka ti thei lo ti ni ma ro chu positive chu heti eng te hi lo chu ka pi magi hian in mani a khai ka hu khom khan she struggle mo eng tin nge zoom ka eng tin nge te to chun chat box te ka share to ni next time a chuanin tile don session a zei to don ni Kami remote po. Kalome kasi really do don.
Lastly, I would invite Professor Joy.
Okay, thank you once again for this opportunity. And as others have also mentioned, just want to thank all of you for the very enlightening discussion that we had. So with regard to epistemic violence, the question that was posed earlier, I just want to say one thing, which is that I think if we are saying one language is better than the other, then of course it is epistemic violence. Okay, one language is better than the other. So I don't think in any way we should try and denigrate another language. And I don't think this is what this entire series is all about. I don't think anyone here will say that we should learn English over and above any other language, or even over and above Mizo. So I think very often there is added cultural value that is given to English, which is not necessarily right. But I think what has been said by Professor Margaret Rama also is that at a functional level, if we want to go beyond the Mizo world, then we have to be proficient in a language. And usually English can go a very long way. With Hindi, we can go to the borders of India, but with English, we can go beyond India. So we'll have to choose which is, I mean, as an educational system, people have to think in terms of those who are in the powers, that we have to think about which languages to emphasize. But I think it is quite clear that if we want to reach the world that is beyond India, then English becomes necessary. So I think when we say that English is important, it is at its functional level that we are saying that it's important. That's one thing. And I think learning language is very, very important as a whole, whether it is Mizo or whether it is English or whether it is Hindi. Language learning as a whole is very important. And as was already said earlier as well, writing and reading correctly is important. I think, in today's world, there is a lot of emphasis on the superficial. We want to look good. Our whole world is about selfies and, looking good for the camera, which is a very superficial world. I think what we need today is, as we say in Mizo, rilna. We have to be very deep people, mirilni hi apoy moa, and miril lotu, they'll just wither away, but miril katu, they will remain. Ang de ukhan. So, Wanson, how is it linked to language learning? I think people who are very careful about writing well, who are very careful about speaking well, are usually people who have something profound about them, whether it is Mizo or whether it is Hindi or whether it is English. If you're not careful in the way you write, I doubt whether you are a person who is a deep person. So I think if we want to cultivate a habit of being deep, if you want to cultivate a habit of being people who are not superficial, I think whatever language we learn, we have to be very deep in our knowledge about that particular language. So I think those are the 2 points that I would like to share. And once again, thank you very much for having me on the show as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I thank all our resource persons, especially for sticking with us, for committing to this webinar to make it a success. Sadly, we have to come to the end of our 3 days national webinar series, and we truly hope that the participants gained as much as us, the organizers, as well as the resource persons. And the feedback form is available in the chat box for participants who would like to receive e-certificate. It is mandatory that you fill up that feedback form. So once again, I would like to thank all the participants and resource persons, especially for your presence, for your viewpoints, for your perspective, which is going to be cherished and which is going to be there for the future generations to see. And we sincerely hope more talk of this kind takes place in the future. And I thank once again principal of Khosol College, for allowing the Department of English to conduct this event. With this, I bid farewell to all. Since I have already made my vote of thanks, a lengthy one, before I will not repeat it. So farewell to all. Participants, the feedback form fill up turin kanin ngena tin he page hi minute nga vel kan close lawa nga chumi chung chuanin feedback form hi khongain kan fill up ton nya. Kan feedback form hi YouTube chat box kan post boka chuwang chuanin nakina tuna omrem chang lo kan chante mo an omani po in kami YouTube chat box atang khan I copy theya nya. Atop nan feedback form a link muthelo kan omani chuanin personalin ka phone ka WhatsApp emo registration link in donna email khan min lo deal mai donya. Tin in feedback zong zong awangin kan lom ani ti kha atop nan kan soile tu ania kan ti top thei to in karinga participants song song te in zawa in soi tui ule tin mangcha ngal bok ule